they were waiting in a tunnel. Do you remember you come out and have a look at the pitch before you go in and get changed? They were waiting. 2 of them. And it was like, "Oi, Bellamy." So I've looked around back and they've gone, "Gonna break your fucking legs today." And lucky enough, he got sent off after 7 minutes, one of them did, for stamping on one of our players' heads. So I remember when I seen the red card, I was like, thank God for that. I had contact with him. He was like, "Look, Sir Alex wants you." Honest truth, I never felt like going. I was like, how many players have ever been at Newcastle and said like, "No, I'm happy to stay here," and then not go Manchester United? I remember he came in and then he was like, "Oh, do you want to play for Liverpool? So why is your agent asking for this?" And I said, "Look, I leave them to them. That's their job, you know." I did forget to ask, "Well, what are you earning then? Do you do this for free? Or is you just because it's Liverpool? Or are you earning 4 odd million a year?" You know? Yeah, it was like, that worried me straight away. Then he had a picture of like me shouting. I'm like, "Oh God, what? You'd have 2,000 of them." And he was like, "Why is this then? Why? I don't want to see this." I do not lie. Trust me, I don't lie. And I'm more embarrassed about telling this truth. You know, this is not a good moment for me. And I feel like this is not something I want to out there. I understand you got to own it. I understand like it did happen. But it's nowhere near a proud moment for me. Do not worry about that.
What's going on, people? Welcome to the Central Club. This episode is brought to you by Reinspire Printing and Kaleidoscope Project. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the club, and hit the bell button to be notified of future content. Today, we're on a promise. We were on a promise of a part 2 with a great guest who had a great reaction. I'm super excited to have this man on. I'm not going to say too much, but it's Craig Bellamy. What's going on?
Oh, good. No, I'm happy to do this as well. I never watch like anything I've been involved in or I've done. I've never really looked back at. I'll probably watch it for a couple of minutes and can't stand my voice or anything like I'm not watching that again. But this, I watched a couple of times over again. I enjoyed it. I really, I said at the time, no, I did it like I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So to do it again, and I wanted to do a football one as well, like, because I remember you saying to me, you had questions about the football side, and I much prefer the football side than actually talking about me. You understand what I mean? It was the football and being at clubs, I feel, is more important. Yeah. So this was like, it was for me quite natural to want to try and do this one as well.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, there was 10 clubs at least like that you've been at, like, and you know, we danced over a couple. So I thought this time what we would do was just go through each club and just pay them the respects they so much wanted, like, you know. There was a couple out there who were like, "Why didn't he say much about this?" And so we'll go through that. But obviously the first thing, the most important thing, which you must be over the moon about, is the Burnley job.
No, it's great. I gotta be honest, it's I remember I was at Newcastle, which we'll go into as well. And it wasn't a great time for me towards the end at Newcastle. The way it all parted and the way it was from board level down to manager, then myself, it was a difficult time. And then I went to Blackburn. And I remember going to Blackburn as well. And I just felt love straight away, you know, from the people at the club. They can't do enough for you. And just the area as well. And so I sort of knew what I was going into with Burnley. I knew the area. I've lived there. I've lived there before. And going there was just exactly the same. You know, I know people talk about but from the laundry room to the kit man, to the people in the medical area, to the people like all around us. What you usually see is the team and the coaching staff. But the people who are a real big part of this football club are the people you don't get to see.
Yeah.
But they're the most important. Because how they greet you in the morning and how happy they are. And every morning I walk into that club, it's like, it's brilliant. They just everyone's happy, everyone's smiling, everyone asks how you are. And it's just, it reminded me that of Blackburn, and I needed that at that stage. And I probably feel I needed that at this stage now as well. So to be back in that, it's been great. Like I've loved that side of it. And Vinny says to me as well, he's like, "How good's everyone?" And I said, honestly, it's like that here. I don't know what it is at that area, but the people are just welcoming. But really, do you know, you feel that care? You feel that like they're with you and they want you to do well. And by giving them time means the world. It just feels like it's the perfect place for me in a stage I'm at this present moment. So to go there was like a blessing.
Yeah. Would you say it's a totally different world to Anderlecht then?
Completely different. Maybe because it's Brussels and it's 8 odd million people, different languages everywhere, different cultures, different. Like Belgium's very political.
Yeah.
From certain, you can go 20 minutes and they're speaking a completely different language, different way of doing things, different rules, different laws. Sort of 20 odd minutes the other way, different language again. So it was good. It was a good learning curve. But the club, I liked Anderlecht as a football club, but politically, from president to director, it's just every day was politics.
Really,
it was draining. I used to look at Vinny and I was like, for him to coach, it was the best learning curve because the conversations you would hear him having, you were just left scratching your head. It was like, did he just say that? Is he wanting this player in? Because it was completely, every day there was something different. Where here now as well, it's just, you're left to football and you're backed and they just support you on everything. It's just, it's football again. Do you understand what I mean? And that's what we live for. We do spend like long hours. We do work long hours. I believe it demands that. And Vinny, does demand that. I've seen so many people, have $1 million dreams on a minimum wage work ethic. It's never going to work. No. Where if you have those dreams, you've got to be prepared to put the hours in. And we do. It comes quite natural to us. There's so many times, we're leaving like late at night. We just stay at a hotel around the corner because it's too late to go back anywhere else. It's just, it takes me about half hour to get into Manchester. I need to stay somewhere close because we're up at like 7 a.m, being in at 7 a.m. So, which is good. I love all that. I never, no one complains. We love this. This is what we do. But it's like, it's nice there where, even the cleaners, they're in late, but we know them by first names and they find it like they get shocked. It was like, well, did you not expect this? Or no one's ever spoke to us. But we sort of involve them in tactics as well.
Really?
Yeah. Like, well, what do you think? Who's your favorite player? Or where do you think we could use him best? So, it's just got that feel about it, which is good. It's been enjoyable.
Well, it's showing in the football clearly, great result against Bristol City. You're in 4th place. Yeah.
It's because of the turnover, because so many players left and then we brought so many players in. We had to build a squad. We haven't had the budget like people would think straight from the Premier League. You're going to be left over. There's money obviously going to be available. It really wasn't. I'm not saying we've had a lot more money than 99% of the other clubs in the league, of course. But we've had to be smart with the money. It's had to be reinvested because the age profile of the team was old. And it was, that's why I think around about 15 players left. And one's obviously the club had to sell for a lot of money. And they were Premier League players. And, they want to go and stay in the Premier League, which is completely fine. It was never a problem with that. We'd have loved to have kept 1 or 2 of them, of course, but financially it just wasn't possible. But also from a personal level, it's not realistic either. You have to give them the opportunity of being able to play at the best level they can. But that gave us a little bit of leeway to build a squad because we didn't spend, we still haven't got anywhere near the top 15 signings from what's happened before. But the money was like the age profile of 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, 2 million here, 600 grand here, 800 grand there. So just building up, which the players will be with you for a while and we can hopefully create their value, make them better players, create their value even more by making them better players, and playing the way we want to play. It's not like to say it's right or it's wrong, but the way we play, we like the ball. We believe we defend less by having the ball. But we want to score, we want to attack. And the way it's gone so far this season, due to a lot of the players who have been there before, like J-Rod, Corky, your senior players, your Barnsies, have just made the transition so much more comfortable. They're great people to have in and around your football club. They're a great example to the players you bring in. And they fully took on board everything we wanted to coach. And it's made it... I am surprised how well we've played. Really, really am. You look at it, the games we've dominated, really. Apart from the West Brom where we weren't there. We weren't at our best. And it wasn't due to the players. We were just burnt out by that time. I think we got to around about 4 games in the space of 13 days. It was just too much. It was too much. It was a crazy period. We've had 8 games in the space of the first month of the season, which is just insane. And that's for every club.
Yeah.
You can't have like a certain period out and then suddenly, there you go and have an incredibly busy period during this time.
Yeah.
And the players, I thought, and that was a lot of teams in the Championship. I just thought that last game, because I watched a lot of games back as well, there was a lot of teams on empty at that stage. So the break then was great. And this break now will help. But we're back into it again, loads of games. But the way they've taken on board how we want to play has been a real credit to them. And I've been really surprised.
Yeah.
I thought we'd be, I wouldn't say worse off. I thought performance-wise, maybe not as good as what we've had. Point-wise, maybe similar to where we are. But due to the performances, we've drawn a lot of games. But if, we dominated those games as well, which we could have easily won, which gives you more confidence going on to the next one. So we're in a good place. I believe we're going to get stronger as well, due to the players we have. And, we have a lot of quality. And one or two boys we haven't quite seen yet. We got them late in a transfer window. So they'd only just been training with us. So they're getting used to the system we play, getting used to their roles and what we expect. But they're going to come in and have a big say in the season as well. So, I believe it could be a really good season for us.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely in a unique position as well. Coming down, obviously, with the manager going. You're in the Championship. Yourself and Vincent Kompany were obviously trying to make a name for themselves in the English football. What's your plan? Are you looking to go up, get promoted this season, or?
Look, you want to get you. I look at win one game at a time. The next game's the most important. Let's go and win that. And wherever it takes us, then we'll see where we are then. But I'm sort of greedy as well. It's like performance. Of course, I want to win, but I want to dominate whoever we're playing, without the ball, with the ball. And I feel that's how we are. That's like, we want to be able to dominate you in every aspect of the game. So you come off the pitch where you haven't been able to match us running. Our high intensity is too much. So far this season, no one's gotten near us running-wise. Now, if we can keep that, that'd be great. Now, it's the things like duels, winning your duels, winning the second balls, winning the third, fourth balls, keeping a high line. So we expect players to be able to have a high intensity but a huge volume as well to be able to play. We do. Now, people are looking at our possession, we're the highest in the league for possession, but it's, you have to run hard to be able to keep possession. Now, people feel you just keep the ball, and no, it's not. You have to create angles. So you have to sprint and make the pitch as big as possible. And then you rotate, then you find pockets, and then you're able to build up through the lines there. So the way we want to dominate that way is really we're quite relentless on that. It's really important for us. And that's really what we keep pushing. And I just feel, like I said, the players of where they've got to so far after 10 games, I think we've lost once. We have lost once. I'm not thinking, I know we've lost once. And I was against Watford where, Watford have outstanding forwards. But I thought especially second half, we did dominate that game. But in the, if later on as well, I feel we're just going to get stronger. Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we stay away from injuries. We've been quite good on that front. We hope to be good on that front as well. But if we can, the squads and the players are great to work with, and I see them. I hope they're able to get the rewards they they deserve.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're taking, you know, I know it sounds
I know
stupid.
I know I avoided the promotion one very quick because it's
No, because I know what you're like. You're planning the long run probably as well.
No, it's when you look at like your Brentfords and your Brightons. Now you have to build a team to stay there. Otherwise, you know, would it be too early if we got promoted? I think it'd be tough next year. I think the group of players we have would need more backing again. But you can't turn down promotion. Do you understand what I mean? You don't get a chance to pick and choose when you get promoted. So, of course, we would take it. But if it was next season and we went up, the third year, I believe we stay up.
Have a bit of that,
then we're strong. And like your Brentfords, like your Brightons, you can hold your own in the league and you can build from there then. And I'm not saying, you know, it's looking for winning the Premier Leagues and all that type, because, look, anyone would say, you know, that level's blocked off. You know, Leicester, right, done it a few years ago, and what they done was a miracle, and that's why we call it a miracle.
Yeah.
But the financial power those teams have, you know, I went and watched Man City in a week against Dortmund, and they were playing well. It was a difficult game against Dortmund because Dortmund had a deep block, and you know, Man City was struggling at the time to break the lines. But then when you look at the bench, and you know, I'm watching on the side, and I'm just looking at the bench, and they're warming up, and you've got Foden, you've got Silva, and you're looking at these players, and like, these can bring these on, and then after the you know, players come off, like Grealish and all that come off, and then these players come on, they change the game again.
I know.
And that's what these real elite teams have. They have incredible players ready to come on as well, who can change the game. Now, a lot of us teams in the Championship, now we have a good squad. That's what I feel gives us an advantage. But a lot of teams, it's very difficult to have a real quality squad in the Championship because it's you know, it's wages. It's financially, it's very, very difficult. So, you know, you're lucky to have you know, if you can get 11 good players out there, you're doing really, really well. But then to dip into it, especially when you've got 8 games in a month, it's very difficult for these to go like for like or bring even more improvements on when the game's not going quite the way you want it to, because financially it's not possible for a lot of teams in the Championship. So the relentless task of what, you know, every team in the Championship has to go through is tough. It's tough because financially they haven't got it, but the ones who do have a benefit. So, like I said, for promotion, of course, we would take it. But in the next couple of years, we have to build a squad that's able to, you know, to bring good football, to excite. You know, you always want that feeling. You only come off and like, I enjoyed that today. You know, I would like to go and watch these again.
Yeah.
And even if we lost, and it's not like, you know, winning and losing, like I hate losing. I know I've said it before, really despise it. Way more than I like winning, honestly. And it, like, people say that it does. I'm telling you, it makes sense. Like, winning isn't always enough. It really isn't. It's how did you win? You know, did you keep to your principles? That's the key. Now, if you lose but you've played the way you wanted to and you kept to your principles, then you're okay, because you know what, we'll win more games. We'll be fine. But if you get to see the principles and you come off, do you know what? Even if you lost, I like that. You can live with it.
Yeah, you look up to that, don't you?
It's never. I feel that. Do you know when people say, "Yeah, but it's 3 points, well done," but we didn't play well. It hurts. Like, I really like. That's not enough for me. That's not. I can't, because I know.
Is that a perfectionist, would you say?
I don't know what it is. Honestly, I keep myself up at night a bit. But it's something inside you that it's not enough. Do you understand what I mean? Because I feel like you get caught out sooner or later. You can only get away with this for so long. And that's why you end up, you know, if you go into the coaching terms and, you know, management terms, that's why you only last a year. You'll get caught out in this game.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why, like, you change jobs and then suddenly you have success for a certain period, but it won't be sustained. And also the most important part is with coaching and management, and I feel this is the most, is do you leave that football club in a way better position than when you left? That's when you know you're a good coach and a good manager. I see so many clubs really struggle when this manager goes, and the club then go downhill, and I don't believe that was a good manager at that club, because he built everything for him. He was worried about him.
Yeah, he's leaving you know.
And if you look at the age profile of teams, then you've got loads of players on big wages that won't move. And they're entitled to stay, by the way. You know, it's not their issue, it's the club's problem. You know, and they've created that problem. And the previous manager as well. When you're paying players on silly wages at an age where you know they're never going to get more than that, you know, why would they? It's not their ownership for them to. Why would you? Anyone in any job, by the way, say no? By the way, at 30 years of age, you're running out of contract, but leave now and go there for less money. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
They stay, and they're entitled to stay, and I don't blame them as well for that. But that club then is paying them big wages for a player's service they're not using because they're not going to play. And the manager then elsewhere is gone elsewhere, so someone else inherits that. And it's never a good balance. It's never really a good balance. But then that's where I always say, you know, well, who's in charge? Who's making these decisions at football clubs? Now, for us as coaches and managers, there should be a level of what's the future? Where's the club? The most important is the football club. We'll come and go. Players, coaching staff, managers, we will always come and go. But the health of a football club, for the supporters, for that football club, they're more important. How it's run is way more important than us coaches and us managers or us players. Way more important. It's the health of that. Now, in order to do that, you need someone who's educated, but has the health of that football club at heart. And he only is decisions will ever get made, got to be gone through this to make sure that nothing's at risk at this football club. Now we, you know, like everyone could go and spend money. Now we could have took a gamble on one or two players, but it put the club at risk. We ain't going anywhere near it. We can't put the club at risk. It's not our job to do that. You know, this club's got to be healthy for a long time after us. And that's, you know, that's really our conscious side, but that's, you know, where we want to be remembered for as well.
Yeah, leaving a legacy. Of
course. You know, then you know when people can look back and say, do you know what a good job they've done? That's worth way more. It's worth way more.
I think it's very relevant, which is what's going on now in our local football club, which we'll go on to a bit later.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But let's go back to the clubs and that you took over. Well, you played at, sorry.
Took over.
When we're talking
I wouldn't say that, yeah.
No, and the first one is, you know, I'll skip Bristol for the youth, for the youth side, but like we'll go into Norwich, who are, you know, two positions above you now in with Burnley. I think you scored, it was 32 goals and 84 performances there, and really made your name there at Norwich.
Well, I came through the youth system, so I was there from 11, 12 years of age, and really got educated there on football, the way they played. Also behaviour. Yeah, I know some people say that didn't quite go as well as, listen, I was well out of hand then. I was way worse then. But it was just manners as well. Being at the table, no hats. And, you know, I picked that up elsewhere as well. But it, you know, your pleases, your thank yous, they really show me a different world. And then going there, I remember, because it was like such a long way. I remember going there, and I remember like Chris Sutton, Mike Walker was the manager. No, I think it was Dave Stringer, sorry. But they all knew my name. And I'm only 11, 12 years of age. I've gone there. I've been at the training ground, and they go out their way and come and see you, because they must have been tapped up elsewhere. We got a young kid from Cardiff who we really like, and
look out for him.
Yeah, and he like, this is the player we've heard so much about. You know, they probably knew nothing about me at all.
He's like, get down there and speak to him.
Yeah, but they made you feel really welcome. You know, and they made you feel like you were part of that club, which was nice. I enjoyed that. And then I remember I got to the age of about 14. I remember Leeds and, you know, other clubs wanted to, you know, they offered my parents money for me to sign for them. Chelsea, Liverpool, they didn't offer, but they offered me, you know, to sign schoolboy forms for them. And I just felt like, no, this was the place for me. And I remember when they signed me on my birthday, on my 14th birthday, because that was the age you could sign for them then. And they said, like, look, we know there's other clubs you could go to, but you come to us. You will play in our first team way before any of those other football clubs. and we will do everything we can to make you a better, to give you that opportunity. And they kept to their word with that.
They equipped you with everything.
Everything. I went there. I remember my first time moving up there. I was 15 years of age. About 95. They just got relegated from the Premier League as well. But we moved into a brand new training ground, and the training ground was incredible. It was like swimming pool, pitches as far as your eyes could see. We had a youth team pitch where no one could train on. It was only youth team games. And it was like immaculate. It was like the best pitch, even to this day, probably I've ever really played on. It was incredible. But that was the care and detail they give into the youth, because they felt it was their future. And I remember when they were in Europe, there was Ruel Fox, Chris Sutton, Darren Eady, Jamie Curtin was there or thereabouts, Lee Power, Jeremy Goss. So 6, 7, all playing in that first team from the academy. And they finished third in the Premier League. So it was evident that you're going to get an opportunity here. It's geared for that. But Norwich as a place was completely different to the life I was living in Cardiff. It was quieter. But it was all about football. It was really all about football.
Do you think you brought that City attitude with you then?
I was lost to start with, because I was homesick. To move the other end of the UK at the age of 15 was tough. I know I spoke about before, so I don't want to go too much into that. But I will go on a football side of it. I wanted out. It was really difficult for me. And actually I realised, this game's quite tough. This is not, just turning up weekends playing. You've got to train. You've got to clean boots. You've got, there was another side to it, and getting spoken to like you meant nothing wasn't nice. Yeah. But it was part of an apprentice. So it was part of what, was done to them. And so it was natural at that time. And then the second year really come together for me, football wise, really took off. Made my debut during that season. And I remember we had one or two players. We had a player, Darren Eady. He was about 4 or 5 years older than me. He was the main kid in the first team. And he was playing for England in the 21s, and he was like the star. But I don't know, me being me was like, I had a goal for him straight away. Yeah. I was like, I'm better than him. I don't think he's as good as what everyone thinks he is, I remember setting myself like, give me a year, he'd be gone. I'll deal with it.
Where does he know?
Yeah. Well, no, he did get it. He did have a bad injury, to be fair.
No, I have heard of that name, Darren Eady.
Yeah, he did have a bad injury, but I needed that goal.
Yeah.
And then I got into the first team that year. I scored about 13 goals, set midfield. I remember Crystal Palace came in for me during that time around Nodes. There was other clubs like Spurs towards the end. But it was just, I was learning the game. I got exposed really young. Yeah. From 18, I was playing week in, week out.
You took the injury at...
Well, I was 19 then. I remember that year, I must have been on about 15 goals.
Darren Bullock?
Kevin Muscat.
No, Kevin Muscat. Sorry, No, something happened with Darren Bullock, though. What happened with him?
Oh, God.
He threatened to break your legs, did he?
Yeah, no, it was... we played Bury. And as we went out onto the pitch, it was Neil Warnock's team for Bury. He sent him out. Do you reckon? Yeah, he did all day. They wouldn't have done it on their own accord. Well, it was Bruce Rioch said, it's him. It's the manager. Because he's done that type of stuff before. And actually, during the game, I'll go through it now. It was, so they were there. They were waiting in a tunnel. Generally, you come out and have a look at the pitch before you go in and get changed. They were waiting. 2 of them. And they looked tough as well, you know what I mean? And it was like, oi, Bellamy. So I've looked round back and they've gone, going to break your fucking legs today. And you just laugh. And I'm like, did I just hear it? And they looked at it and they were serious. There was 2 of them. What was the other, Patterson or something like that he was called? So one of our players heard it as well. So he was like, just ignore him type of thing. He went off and he went and told Bruce Rioch. And he was fuming. He was like, that's Warnock. That's the manager. He's told him that. He said, don't worry about him. And lucky enough, he got sent off after 7 minutes, one of them did, for stamping on one of our players' heads. So I remember when I seen the red card, I was like, thank God for that. But we won, I think we won 2-0. I scored the first one. But even during the game, I remember. Because the other player was still on. But I remember Warnock shouting. Yeah, break his fucking legs. Shouting it as I'm playing. A young 18-year-old kid. Can you imagine that? Shocking, like. It was, but it wasn't. I wasn't the first player to experience that.
We can go into Warnock a bit later.
No, it's not. Look, I got to know him after it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that was what I never heard that to that extreme before.
Before that,
yeah, and I've never had players being sent out there to try and do that. And I know some people will look at it and say, it's that's the game. But no, I never experienced that before or after. But it was an education. But everything at that time was an education because I was so young playing first team football. But at 19, it was really like, I became the main player really at Norwich during that time.
I think Bobby Gould called you a precocious sort.
Yeah. Well, I was exposed to international football I made my debut at 18.
He spoke about like the Estonia games and used to go and watch and stuff.
Well, I go and play younger age groups, under 18s, and we nearly qualified for a major tournament. We missed out on goal difference, which would have been a first at a young age group. And I beat Norway 3-2. I scored 2. But I was playing in Norwich's first team at the time as well. And then going to play under 18s, no disrespect to Norway, Poland.
I know what you're saying.
I felt better, my performance, because I was exposed to men's football, it was quite comfortable for me during that time. And then Poland scored. Like I said, we missed out on goal difference in the last minute or something like that it was. So Bobby was there. He was there. He was watching us. I quite liked Bobby.
He spoke highly of you on the interview I saw of him. He spoke really highly of you, and he knew from a young age that you was going to be something special. I think he was talking about you, the Michael Owen, the Keane, like.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm glad he thought that. But it was different. It was a strange time to make your debut and all that with Wales during that time because it wasn't the squad that it was in '94, and it was leftover players retiring and all that due to that time. Probably the list of players wasn't as strong as what a national team would have liked it during that period. The manager then was trying new things, trying to do different, and it was just. I don't know, it just felt like every time I turned up and went on an international camp, something happened. It was either Robbie Savage getting sent home for throwing Maldini's shirt or a press conference that didn't quite go the way Bobby wanted it to the game of charades or, or the game against Tunisia in Tunisia where it just went, we got battered and a few players weren't happy after the game, rightly so as well. And it just, the atmosphere wasn't great. It wasn't great. And so that was another learning curve, It was a real, I remember I scored the winner against Denmark. I was 19 then as well. European Championships, I remember them battering us, but we ended up winning 2-1. And I remember after the game where everyone should be really happy, and a lot of players were, don't get me wrong. But I remember one player, I don't need to say his name because it wouldn't be fair. But I remember one saying, "You kept this fucker in a job again." They were more devastated with that, because they really didn't like him. A lot, there was a lot of players who really wanted him gone.
Really?
So for me, it was like, and sometimes you'd be caught up where you'd be excited. It was tough at times. It was like, oh God, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen this week? And I just felt there was players and the press as well. A lot of press didn't want him there, wanting him gone. Whether they felt he was good enough for the job
or
not.
Any clues on the person? Or?
No, it definitely wouldn't surprise me if I heard him say one or two stuff like that as well. It's no point going, honestly, it's not worth it, really. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not. But it didn't surprise me with him.
What's your most memorable moment at Norwich?
Norwich, most memorable... Do you know what? Ipswich game, derby game. We won. They were a better team than us as well.
Are you fed up of an overpriced coffee and an overrated establishment? Yeah, thought so. Well, don't waste another penny at these quote-unquote hipster joints and head on down to Lacana on Woodville Road, Cardiff. The coffees are banging, the croissants are great, and if you're craving a smoke, they've even got vapes. Also papers, bongs and trays, and a fresh Americano to start your day. You may get wired, but it's better than tired. So head on down to this damn inspired coffee shop, Lacana. The Cannons definitely stay central. Are you a mod, a casual or a skin soul boy? Then head on down to Mojo King, located on the second floor of Cardiff Market. The authentic King store tries to be a little different to the average menswear, and you won't find another on any high street. Brands include Trojan, Hoxton, Scar and Soul, and for the casuals, Gabici, Tashini and Fila. From monkey boots to braces, desert boots to Harringtons, Star Preston Parkers, and of course, Crombie and Lambretta. It's all in one place at Mojo King.
They were more equipped.
Is that
better players.
Playing at the time?
Yeah, Kieran. No, he was injured. He was injured. I think he broke his leg during that time. But it wasn't a double. It was a hairline fracture. So he was only out for about a month or something like that. But I remember him being out for that game. I had a chest infection as well, but I was desperate to play.
Yeah.
And I was really struggling that day leading up to it. We won 1-0, scored a header. And then it was just a rich rain of form for me during that time, because I think we played Huddersfield, beat them a week after or a couple of days after. I scored 2 in that as well. But to score, it was my first real derby as a young footballer. And it was, that was good. That was really, I didn't know, never knew what the derbies I was going to be involved in future. But that was my first taste of a derby game. And to score a winner as well in an away ground. Which was nice. It was nice. So that was probably my, most important or my most memorable game for Norwich.
You look back now at where they were then and where they are now. Do you think Norwich will go up this season?
They'll be close. They'll be there or thereabouts. Because even if you look at this Norwich team as well, I know they've been some people call them a yo-yo club. It's a well-run football club. It always has been. Now, they had a little bit of a dip, but if you look at the training ground, you look at the facilities, you look at the backing they get. I know it's not incredible, but it's a rich area as well. Good people involved with the football club as well. There really is, who really care about that club and run it really, really well. You look at the players, they didn't have to sell. So a lot of the players that were in the Premier League last year are still with them now. And a lot of those players have been promoted before, so they have experience and they have quality as well. So they're a team I would expect to be, if not in the top 2, there or there, pushing right to the end to be into the top 2. So, and I think everyone in the league would see that. What
would you say they're missing then to be a mid-table Premiership club again? Like, what are they missing?
They're never far away. Do you understand what I mean? Even when they go to the Premier League, okay, it's a lot different from the Championship.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say take a risk and maybe sign one or two. They got to fit into what they have wages wise, and because if they come back down, you don't want to be stuck with that player. Yeah. Paying like 4 or 5 million a year on wages, which it's not sustainable in the Championship.
Yeah.
So they use the fact of not taking the risk. But they're just building. I think last year hurt them a little bit. I think they thought maybe that was the year they could stay up. But I see even if they went up this year, I see them learning from the mistakes of that time. They're not far away. Honestly, they're not far away from being a Premier League club for the next few years. And it's a good club. They really, honestly, I could not have hoped when I started, but to be involved with that club is really give me the career I had, and I always look back at them.
You go down as one of an all-time greats at Norwich Football Club.
I got in their top 100. So, and honestly...
Disappointed with...
Well, I was only 22 at the time as well. So I was... No, I learned it like people like Peter Grant came in when I was about 18, and he educated me on football. He educated me on professionalism as well, doing weights, doing a gym after training, before training, dedicating yourself to the game, drinking, eating the right food. And I remember he said to me, it always left for me, I still say it now, like he wasn't a great player, but his attitude was incredible. And he captained Celtic and everything. He was like, I used to go around his house for food, and he really looked after me, looked after my family as well. And I really took to him. And he wasn't like the other pros. They weren't like him. He was beyond dedicated. He trained always at the front. He was just immense. And I really attached myself to him. I really took a liking to him, and he took a liking to me. And I owe my career hugely down to him. But I remember he said, like, look at the career I've had with the ability I've got. It's nowhere near your ability. Now, if you dedicate yourself like I have, you can go and play for whoever you want to go and play for. And it really stuck to me. Like, I still remember on the way back from Cambridge, and I tried to live to that. I really tried to, that right play at the right time. People come into your life at the right time.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, whether it's football, non-football, and he was the right person at that right time. And with Norwich and him in particular, like, I owe my career to. They had a huge say. As long as, like, with the Steve Foley's, the coaches as well, Keith Webb, a lot of the youth coaches who brought me through, who completely believed in me. Like, Steve Foley was like the biggest fan, even now to this day. He's like, he loves me, and I know he loves me.
So much from
Norwich. Yeah, he's not doing so well at the moment. He's not too well at the present moment. And I spoke to him the other day, because I know he's not doing too well. And I said to him, I said, like, my career, yeah? And he goes, yeah, of course. I said, everything in my career is, is with my father, with Peter, and it's down to you as well, that. And he welled up. He's like, he couldn't talk. And it was, but I needed him to hear that as well. I needed him to hear that because he was that important for me. And that club was that important for me. It's, they put up with me when I was a nuisance. They put up with me when I wanted to get into trouble to get out. And they done like with Gordon Bennett as well. They, I don't honestly, where their experiences, a lot of clubs would have moved me on quick. And no one would have ever heard of me. Probably a lot of people say, thank God for that. Why didn't they? But I'm grateful they didn't.
Yeah.
Because they would have given me an out when I wouldn't have been able to get my potential. And I was a kid, when you're a young kid, what you know? You think you know everything. You know nothing. You think you know the world. You really don't. You haven't got a clue. But they did. They did. And they've seen the likes of me try and put those stunts before. And they were just too clever, too cute, and got me to achieve what they always felt I could go and achieve. So as a football club, it's I'd always be in love with them. Honestly, I owe that place, that area, and I never go back there. I'm one of those, once you go, you go, and it's so far away as well. Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't get that chance. But Unfank Road, places I lived there in Thorpe. I never forget. And sometimes at night, I still remember walking those areas. Honestly, wow. I grew up there. And it feels home to me. It really does, even though I don't go there. But one day, we never know.
That's beautiful, mate. Honestly,
it was a bit like
that's
poetic.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, mate.
But it's that special for me.
Yeah.
It really is. And I know I don't say it enough. But I truly mean it.
Okay, so maybe not as much of a special club to yourself, but obviously you went to Coventry City after that. And in your own words, what really happened there? Like, why did they look at you as such a, I wouldn't say disappointment.
No, it was, but, honestly. It was weird because Newcastle were trying to get me. So Newcastle were pushing Bobby Robson, I spoke to. And then I had a phone call off Brian Hamilton, who was the Norwich man at the time, and he was like, where are you? And I was like, obviously I'm at my house. He goes, I'm going to come and see you. So in my head now, Newcastle have got the bid accepted. Right. So we sat down. He was like, look, we want to offer you a new contract. I was like, that was a surprise straight away. And I was like, yeah. Like, what's the other bit? And he was like, well, we've just accepted a bid from Coventry. And it shocked me because I never even heard of Coventry's interest or anything. So I was like, well, the contract, why would you offer me a new contract when you've just already accepted a bid? Yeah. He goes, look, you know the politics, Craig. We've got to say that. Well, I said, okay, I understand that. But where have Coventry come from? What about Newcastle? He goes, look, we've spoke to Newcastle. They can't put the bid in at this present moment because they're waiting for a player to go out. But their bid, they're assured this will come in. But Coventry at least have put the money there. And I was like, well, I want to go to Newcastle. And he goes, yeah, but you're going to have to wait a couple of days. But at the moment, Coventry are on their way up. You've got to do them a courtesy by going to speak to them. I was like, okay, that's what I have to go and do. So I went and spoke to Coventry, but I had no intention of signing for Coventry. I was going to go Newcastle.
So your heart probably weren't in it from the get-go.
There, yeah, it wasn't. But then, like, Gordon Strachan was there.
I've heard he was brilliant with you, though.
He was amazing, honestly. Do you know when you're just talking football? We didn't talk about anything else apart from my game, where I needed improving. And don't forget, I've just come off the back of doing my cruciate as well. Yeah. So, I just recovered from my cruciate. And he was working my game out, and he was like, look, I know Coventry's not your first choice. But he goes, you've been injured. You go to one of these other clubs, you might be in and out. Here, you're going to play. And he goes, I promise you, I will make you a better footballer. And I remember just like, it wasn't about Coventry. It was about this man. Yeah. It was about this man who was going to make me a better footballer. And it was the right to say to me that was ideal. So I was like, it made me look at it completely different then. And I was like, okay, let's do this then. And I went there and, we weren't equipped. They lost like McAllister, lost Robbie Keane. You can't replace those players. Like I wasn't a replacement. They were a different style as well. And McAllister, you cannot replace. You can't. He was that good. He proved it when he went to Liverpool and, the year.
Unbelievable player.
At that age.
Yeah.
But don't forget, people like, he won the league at Leeds as well. He was top.
He was Leeds, then Coventry, really.
He was such an incredible footballer. And you ain't going to replace that. A club, not just a club like Coventry, a lot of clubs, you just can't replace that type of profile. I went there and it was just a club that knew they were in trouble that year. But unfortunately for them, I dedicated everything I had. I trained as hard as I could. And it just wasn't happening. It really, we weren't a strong team. And I mean, and that's myself included, I didn't help that team at all. Around about Christmas, we brought in John Artson, which helped. That did help me then as well.
Help us with teammates as well and what's going around in the training ground and stuff.
Yeah.
Someone you know.
Yeah, of course. Because I understand as well, even when, I've been signed for a lot of money. Obviously, my wages were okay then compared to what other players were earning, but I just felt that resentment as well.
Yeah.
I felt like... there was players there who've been there for a number of years who are not earning what I was earning, which is not, it's not their concern, or is it my fault?
Yeah.
But maybe they thought I was going to save the day, and I wasn't saving the day.
He fucking was. He getting this money, and he's fucking. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So, and I just felt like it wasn't a good vibe there. You know what I mean? It was, but I honestly, I have to admit, I was learning the game. I was getting better. And unfortunately, for Coventry, they didn't quite get that worth. They didn't quite get it. It was, and also the team as well. We weren't that good a team, and we deservedly got relegated. And I wasn't that good a forward for them, and deservedly got relegated with them. And I played a big part in that. And I do. It does hurt me as well, even still now. But I look back and I improved so much as a footballer from it. I got stronger because the stick I got for a young player, from inside the club, but also outside the club. I remember fans were singing what a waste of money, and Coventry fans were cheering.
Yeah, was it 6.5 million, something like that?
Yeah, and they were cheering, they were applauding, and I had to see that. And it was hard, but I understand. Look, I'm not saying it's an excuse. People love to say, "Oh yeah, but that's football," and they use it.
You was in a doomed football team at the end of the day, and you're young as well at the same time. And
I own it as well. I own. I would love to have been better, but like I said, it made me. When we got relegated, it hurt. I felt like such a failure. I felt like, I did honestly, I remember going back to, I come back here to Cardiff, turn my phone off, didn't want to speak to anyone. It was like, look, I got to hopefully prove myself in the championship again next year, and try and right what's gone wrong here. And then out of nowhere, honestly, it was literally out of nowhere. Newcastle had a bid accepted and Coventry were happy.
Can I ask you something then? Do you think, if Newcastle signed you that time, do you think you would have been ill-equipped at that time as well?
I wouldn't have been,
do you think you needed that break, but the transition between...
All day.
Into Coventry?
Yeah, all day. I needed because it hardened me up as well. The constant criticism I had during that time as well toughened me. It was like, because at Norwich I didn't get criticism. I was a young kid coming through. You don't really go for young players as much, and a club like Norwich didn't. And their criticism wasn't harsh. Do you understand? If I didn't play well, it wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
But they loved you. They was like you
was their golden child, weren't you?
It was that much.
Coventry got no allegiance to you. They're like, who the fuck is this?
We just wasted $6.5 million. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I think they were quite relieved to get some of that money back.
Yeah.
Because they probably, I was surprised. And I had the same even when I went up to Newcastle. It was like, well, why have we just bought this? Why he proved he wasn't good enough at Coventry. They got relegated. But Bobby Robson seen something because he wanted me the year before. But when he signed me, he got a much better footballer than what he would have had first time round. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to say to the Coventry fans?
No, do you know, honestly, I remember I come out with, I'd done a piece, I think it was ITV or something like that. I spoke, and I was quite resentful. I was still hurt from it as well. And do you know what? It wasn't, do you know when you look back, like I said, when you're young, you think you know everything, you know very little. And I was definitely one of them. I didn't speak too well of the club. I was sort of anger at myself as well, but also anger, that they give me a hard time there. But now, looking at it now as well, it was like, it's normal. Do you understand what I mean? It was, and I'm the same again. I'm not trying to, I still look out for Coventry as well. I still look out what they do. And I like the team they had last year as well.
Yeah, they looked great last year.
We signed one of them, Ian Matson, Holland under 21 international, who was brilliant. And love O'Hare. I got to be careful because he's still a Coventry player. And I know we tried to sign him this year, but we love him.
Where are they? They're bottom of the league at the moment.
Yeah, but they've been unlucky with that because of the Commonwealth Games were played, so they're missing a lot of games. And once they get O'Hare back,
I think they've only played 7.
Yeah, which is not it's not been great for them. It's been harsh for them now. It's been unfair for them. But with, like I said, with the likes of O'Hare and Mark Robbins, the manager, they've built a good team. They're good energy, really good centre forward as well. I don't want to keep naming them because it looks like we're trying to,
poaching them.
No, we're not. But as a football club, I loved them last year. I thought they were outstanding, and they've just been a little bit unlucky this year due to, like I said, due to the condition of the pitch. But once they get up and running, they're a handful for any team in the Championship.
Okay, so you went to Newcastle straight from Coventry, 28 goals, 93 games. What was life like moving to Newcastle? Because after speaking to the Kieran Dyer one, I didn't realise I did know how much of a big football club it was, but the difference in the life, the fans, everything. What was that like for you?
Well, when I remember going there the first time, and then you see the Angel of the North. I played there as well. I played against them, and I should have scored a few goals there, missed loads of chances, as I usually did. But,
that's why they didn't want you at first.
Yeah. But it was a great place to go and play. Even for an opposition player, it was like, what a place this is. Like the stadium, how full it was. But even as you're traveling to the game, you see them come across the river, across the bridge. And it's just like the stadium's in the middle of the city. And usually you have big cathedrals, and no matter where you go, you have it's the stadium. Yeah. And that's church.
That's it.
That is it. That weekend that's what they go to, and they all adore that football club. It's their home. They're beyond passionate about it. The bars, everything leading up to it's a real special place. It's such a special football club. The fans you take away from home, the support, once they're with you, they love you, then they're with you. They're like, I won't have a bad word said about you. And it was, I knew when I first got there, because the thing with that area, it's so football run, from there used to be 3 newspapers there, all about the football. Then it'd be a 2-hour radio station every day. like free legends used to call it, who would have an opinion, a big opinion. Some of it not quite accurate either. I thought, look, I understand radios as well. It's good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you say something really good, you say something the opposite.
Simon Jordan.
Yeah, no, but you've got to get your phone-ins. You've got to get your people replying. That's what, you know, I completely understand that. But there, I thought they were, you're supposed to have the best interests of your club.
Yeah.
I don't feel they did at times.
So
I thought the way they spoke about players, I was okay. They were reasonably okay with
in
me.
the early days.
But you can be if you're doing reasonably well. But the way they spoke about other players, I thought was like borderline. I wouldn't say just out of what I go like not far off disgusting. You know, I'm talking about Sunderland players as well. I'm talking about Middlesbrough players. This is not. You're not an ex-player when you talk like that. You ain't. And I just felt, and it had a big impact on. You know, you would see how they went. They assassinated people, and I would see the crowd turning on them. It was like, where's that come from? You know, but you know, we were doing okay. I say we're doing okay. We done more than okay. We started the season reasonably, and we just went on from there. Great attack line. You know, you look Solano, Kieran Dyer, Gary Speed, Lauren Robert that side, Lee Shearer up top. It was just relentless. Honestly, it was, and to play with the likes of Solano. And the movement I learned from the year before being coached by Strachan was just like...
Match made in heaven.
It was just... And I felt at home. I felt like 52,000. This is where I should be. This is what, you know, this is what I should be doing. And I remember, like, people would always say, like, it's easy playing well in front of 52,000. Can you play well when they boo? Because they will boo when it's not going your way. And I loved that. It was like, when they turned, you know when you went 1-0 down and the crowd went quiet and they started turning on one or two players, because it can happen. I loved that. It was like, give me the ball. I'll show you. Like, what do you mean I can't play while it's not going well? I'll show you even more I won the ball. And I think they took to that as well. It was like, well, yeah, keep going. But it was pride for me. It was not just, I wouldn't say pride, it was stubbornness. It was like, well, yeah, I'll play, even no matter what the score is, I'm going to keep winning the ball. And it just worked. I could turn games round. But like I said, I was just in a real good group of players. And then we finished 4th that year, the first year there, got PFA Young Player of the Year.
Unbelievable.
It was, honestly, it was that. And I got injured. I'd done my knee. I tore my patella tendon towards the end of that season. And I was playing that well. We had so many games left. I just wonder... Look, it don't keep me up at night. Don't worry about that. It's. I wonder if we could have won our league because we were in distance. We really was. You know, we had something like 7, 8 games left. All we needed to do is win something like 6 of them, and they were doable games as well. We could have, but we never know. You know what I mean? But it was that first year was incredible. It was incredible, and then going into the second year, like I said, I was injured. Then Manchester United tried to sign me. Alex Ferguson, Eric Harrison, who was unfortunately the late Eric Harrison, who was with me at the Welsh squad. He's the one who brought through the 92 squad and, you know, your Beckhams and all that. I contacted him. He was like, look, Sir Alex wants you. And honest truth, I never felt like going. I was like, how many players have ever been at Newcastle and said like, no, I'm happy to stay here and then not go Manchester United? But I was, and maybe there's the Liverpoolness in me. I don't know.
But
it was. That badge, I just don't know. It just wouldn't sit.
No, but there must have been a lot of emotions towards Newcastle United at the end of the day.
It was. It was just a brilliant period. It really promoted me and really, you know, like I was just playing with such good footballers. And when you're doing well there,
the Champions League as well, you know.
It was, and I like, look,
and they haven't been like I told you. I was like, there was some people were saying, "Oh, you ruined European football for Newcastle and stuff."
It's insane.
But they've never been to that position since then.
God, not since then, and only once really before that with Asprilia and, you know, that era, which was an incredible team. I loved that team, like everyone did. But when I signed there, you know. Don't forget, he finished about 15th or 13th in the league. They have better players. Listen, Alan was injured for a long period at that time. And it just matched. The manager was incredible. We had an incredible manager, Sir Bobby Robson. How he moved the team into what he wanted. He wanted speed, wanted energy, but with talent, with the way Newcastle would want to see football. He's from the area, so he understood it. People talk about discipline. The squad wasn't, and it honestly, we had players with opinions.
You being one, or
yeah, I was little one, but we worked, we trained hard. It was like, you ask anyone who even trained with us, if anyone came in, it was like, it was good. We were good. We were really good.
When Souness came in, what was the vibe switch like then? Was it different?
Like it was a shame. I was really, I was hurt the way Sir Bobby went. And I felt like I was a little bit out of it, but I felt they looked for players. They blamed players for it. Like they blamed Kieran. He was part of that. It was all because of him and all because of one or two others. Some I was blamed, some I wasn't. It had nothing to do with the players.
No.
They were looking for this way before it. It was done by Freddie Shepherd. And Paul Strefford was involved in that, the agent who's Freddie Shepherd's son worked with. Graham was involved, so we knew what was happening. And then Graham came in. And I honestly like, the game is the game as well. And, let's see what this brings. But from the first day, it was difficult. It was like, he had a meeting, well, I'm here to win fucking trophies. That's what he said straight away. This club hasn't won anything in this amount of time. You lot haven't won anything, and I'm here to win. So if you ain't here to win, now fuck off, because we're going to win something here. And I remember in my head was like, well, this club hasn't won anything for 40 odd years. And we just had Bobby Robson as well. Like, are you that good then? But then
because I could imagine you like.
But part of me was music to my ears. I was like, God, because I want to as well.
Do you think it was just a personality clash you both? Or?
No, I just felt for it really. I felt he was looking for it. He was looking to stamp his mark. And the media were like, there was a nickname like the Brat Pack and all that, and Bling Brigade.
Bling. Yeah.
Fuck, it was such crap.
Well, that's probably the mix in the environment, like you said, of Newcastle, the fans, the radio stations, it all talking. It's all coming in at once.
Selfish bunch of this, and what I mean.
People are frustrated. 40 years of nothing.
And look, I get that, but it was just, like when you're doing well, the expectation really rises there. Like I remember, finishing third, and it was like, well, next year we've got to win the league. Otherwise, it's been a failure. And we weren't there. And I mean that. Liverpool were better. Chelsea were spending. They were getting better. Man United were Man United. Arsenal. They just gone a season unbeaten. These teams were just forces. You know what I mean? It was like, that was right. Man City weren't there during that time. But it's like, to compete with these, like this is what they do. This is what, you go into these football clubs, they ain't just got Premier League, they've got European Cups. They're like, this is what these lot are designed for. This is what they've been doing for like 20, 30 odd years. This is what their ex-players can talk about. The players at Newcastle couldn't talk about that, their ex-player. You know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't a place where there was no real trophy room. Do you understand what I mean? There was no real culture of...
history.
They got a history. Like every club has, but it wasn't that winning, it was entertainment.
Yeah.
It was an entertainment value. And I just felt like before that they wanted like a Big Brother TV stuff. Now look at it now, it's a miracle because so many clubs have done it. They wanted like cameras in the changing rooms.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah. That's mad though, they wanted that back then.
Yeah, but at the time, like us as players was like, no.
What the fuck is this?
Not like, it's not, that can't, what are we? And I remember remember that film Goal?
Oh, it was. Do you know what? It made me cringe because of like the CGI was so bad on it, like because they done one with like
to make a good.
They done one with Madrid as well, didn't they? It might have been the same one, but he was like a Newcastle player, and
that started to happen, and I remember we played.
Not even won nothing, mate.
Wait, but we played Marseille in a UEFA Cup semi-final. Was it? Yeah, UEFA Cup semi-final, Europa League semi-final. Sorry. And I remember, like, Bob Robson didn't really want to ask, but he had to ask because he was sent from above. And it was like, do you know, when we train on the pitch at Marseille, you know, we'd have like a game towards the end, can the actor who was playing the part in goal, can he train with us? And I like, as part of the film where they could get their
I can imagine you.
And no, I remember like,
wait, hang on a minute.
I was injured. I was injured though. So
come over with his crutch.
I didn't need it, but I remember Speedo really piped up, and he was like, "You fucking what? One of the biggest games this club's had, and you want an actor?"
It's not a fucking mockery, like.
But that's what was going on. And even talk of like, you know, I remember the chairman, you know, they get like Ferrari treatment, the training grounds all fit for a Ferrari, and they're playing like minis. You know, and it was always like speculation of this, then Robson's going to be getting signed. It was just constant. Yeah. It was like...
Then you got the rape scandals in there.
Oh, God, that was like... that was incredible.
Well, Dyer said the only person to pipe up in the change rooms was you, like when Bobby was kind of...
Well, I remember like I was driving in. I took my the kids to school, and I was driving in, and it came up on the radio. And we played Arsenal on a Friday. I come straight after the game at Newcastle, but a few players stayed down. And I remember it was like, what's going on there? And I came into our training ground and I seen TV, like, wasn't just cameras, you know, the vans. And I'm like, oh no, something's happened here. So I've gone into the training ground, and Kieran, didn't really talk too much about it. Titus and all that didn't really talk, you know. So do you know when you're trying to like, well, what's going on here? And they were like, don't know. And I knew something. So then manager wants a meeting. So we're all sat down in the meeting room, and he's gone like, who was in London Saturday night at such and such a place and involved in such and such incident? So I remember just the room was silent. And because I was in Newcastle, like a lot of other players, but obviously one or two. So do you know when you're looking round and you're like,
yeah.
Like, and Titus is not doing anything. Look at Kieran, he's like looking round.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, it was like everyone's like... So out of nowhere then, he mentioned it again, and out of nowhere, he was behind me. I remember he was to my left side, and you just feel a hand go up. But because I seen his eyes lock. So when I've seen his eyes locked, like I've looked, so I seen Titus's like hand up, and he's like, he went straight for Titus. Then he's like, what have you done? Brought shame on this club. And I just like, I loved Sir Bobby Robson. And I don't use that word love as much, you know what I mean? That's like, I did. And I was just like, hold on a second. You can't be talking to him like that in front of all us. You don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Don't you not need to speak to him one-on-one to find out what's happened? Mm. And then he went for me then. He was like, why don't you shut up? You always got something to say. And I'm like, well, but no, I just felt like, this is a conversation you two need to have.
Yeah, not all of us.
In front of all us, and then you're having a go at it, and we don't know anything yet, because I didn't even know, and that's the honest truth, and I was close with Titus. But, yeah, it was just a strange one. But, like, I remember, because the internet was big then, and I remember the One Show was doing something on it, and they were going around asking people, and it was like, oh, yeah, I know who done it. And they named about 6 players, because some internet named 6 players, and I was named in it. Oh. But I was in London. And sorry, I wasn't in London. I was in Newcastle. So it was like, oh yeah. And they were, to be fair, they were trying to say like the power of the internet. Now they're accusing people, brandishing them. But I remember the Sun article had the player, had Kieran in it, but he blurred his face out. Yeah. So I remember like they played Middlesbrough. I was injured at the time. And they were all saying you got a team full of rapists. Sorry, my fault.
Who's the rapist on the wing?
Yeah, and Kieran, and they were going at him.
Yeah.
And it was, it was just a mad. It was crazy. Time. It was that type of. You could see it happening there in Newcastle. You know what I mean, with the players and with the media and people's opinion towards that group. And it just, I don't know, I sort of started to feel a little bit out of love for football then. Yeah. And then with Graham coming in, he wanted to interrupt that. Like, I'll sort this lot out. Don't worry about that. And, you know, I'll build you a team. And I got on with him. I had no problem with him. But he went for Laurent Robert. Laurent Robert didn't go anywhere with it. He was okay. Kieran knew better. And then he went for me. And I bit. And I did. And I just, not being wise, not riding that storm out. Because he would have gone on to someone else then.
Yeah, we'll probably seeing what he done to Lauren Robert, because he jumped him off the coach the one time as well, didn't he? Yeah. And then with Kieran, they're your mates at the end of the day, and you do, you probably just sort of, fuck, I've had enough of this. I've had enough. Yeah,
but I sort of had enough of everything, you know what I mean? It wasn't, like I said, it was the TV stuff.
Yeah.
Then it was, it was just the opinion, like, I love football. Honestly, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it felt like it wasn't becoming football anymore.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what club you're at, no matter how much you enjoy it, or you feel, you're progressing, and this is what, playing in front of 50 or 1,000 was incredible. It really was. And going away from home was brilliant as well. They were great. But I just felt like I started to lose that buzz for the game, and I need it. I really need it. And it just didn't, like, why are people talking about us? What have we done? Why are we front page of papers? Liverpool and Man United, they must be looking at us, laughing at us, going, like, look at those clowns there, you know what I mean? And we created so much media attention, or we had so much media interest for doing what? Really, we should be talking about football. But that got sidetracked. We become a circus. And I felt like I played a part in that as well. And I didn't like it. And I didn't like who I was becoming as well. And I wanted to get back to football. I wanted to, to find me, to be me, and be part of the game that I enjoy so much. So for me then to leave was right. It was right. The circumstances, the way it wasn't ideal, but nothing is ideal.
Yeah.
Nothing works the way you want it to, but it was the right time for both of us. And I still, I'm still happy that I went there. Honestly, I really am. It was like, I had such an incredible time there. I really did. But I sort of lost me there as well. I started to become the person that I don't want to be. I got involved in instances that weren't me. Arguments that weren't me either, you know what I mean? I was draining me.
Yeah.
And my, how my mind works as well. I was getting myself into a position where I weren't enjoying me. My wife at the time, I could only apologize to her through that period as well. It was like, she was completely devoted to me, and done everything for me and the children. But, as well as having two boys at that time, she was looking after the biggest one, which was me. Yeah. The two boys were easy for her. But then me involved in that was, credit to her as a person as well. But I felt we need to come away from this.
Yeah.
And this is not what I want for us, and it's not what I want for me. And a lot of it, like I said, was self-inflicted, and just believing you know too much when you don't know. You know very little.
So Newcastle now, current times, they've come in with these new owners, and we'll talk a bit about the Man City ownership and stuff, and how well they treated you as a club.
Yeah.
Where'd you see Newcastle now in the next couple of years?
Look, money always wins. It always wins. And I believe this will, if this is what it's going to be. They will get to where they need it to. It won't be as quick as ours because of financial fair play.
Yeah.
That really does come in, and it will sustain. It would have to be a longer period than what Chelsea were able to do, what Man City early stages were able to do. But even we played in pre-season, and I seen a difference straight away. I seen more support staff. Dan Ashworth, who I really, really like, who was a director of football there. He went from Brighton. Spoke to him for a while. And it's just a club that's going to go well. And do you know what? Like, I look at it, I'm actually glad someone done that for a club like Newcastle, because with Mike Ashley, and I know, like, he wasn't loved there, but I look at Mike Ashley as Mike Ashley, the businessman. And it didn't surprise me what he was going to do. Now, I believe as a businessman, he's outstanding. everything he does
of course,
is incredible, you know, and it might upset a lot of people how he does, but it really, you know, you take over businesses that are not, you know, and then not be,
yeah.
But it is what he does, and you can't,
way, yeah.
of course it is, and you know, he ran Newcastle to a way that wasn't seen in a good way towards Newcastle fans on what they expect, what they wanted to spend, and how they wanted their team to progress. But with the group now that have come in, if they get the training ground, they need to improve that, improve all areas of that, improve the recruitment. And I'm sure there's just pieces that they're just going to, it's like a puzzle. They're going to start putting it all into.
Yeah,
and
it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. And you know what? It's going to be good, you know. It's going to be, they should be there or thereabouts. Yeah. You know, I'd say top 5, top 6.
Said, the clubs, they've been there as a fan base, and it's their religion. It's inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, they're always like, you know, people like say West Ham. You know, you can't help but like watching it. You know, you can't help but like, if Newcastle are on Super Set, you want to watch it.
Yeah, of course.
And I was even when they weren't doing well, you'll still go and watch it.
Newcastle.
Yeah, it's Newcastle. There's something special about St James's Park. But now with this, and like I said, when the players start, you know, they get away from relegation. I know they haven't started as well as they would have liked, but they'd be top 10 to the top. You know, they'd be top 10 this year. I believe they'd be there. And then they're able to progress then the next year, and then they're able to start. Yeah. So it's going to take about 3-4 years. And I believe then they're going to be pushing it. It's going to be a good ride, you know. It's going to be good.
Another club with a great fan base, great club all in all. Anyway, was Celtic. I know you didn't stay there long.
No,
you know you scored in the derby.
Yep.
You was involved in a helicopter Sunday, so you've been involved in some, you know, big events up there. Mm. There's one video I always see on YouTube which makes me laugh, and this was obviously when you was playing at Man City, but you obviously took that Celtic way because someone tried offering you a signature and you just...
Rangers shirt, yeah.
What did you say to him? Just
no
jog
way.
on, mate.
Yeah. That can't happen. It's like, but honestly, I'm like that now. I wouldn't sign a Sunderland shirt. I wouldn't sign like any rival shirt. No way. I just couldn't do that. It wouldn't be, you know, not when you've represented, you know, another club.
No.
I wouldn't do that. But yeah, that was like, I've always had a soft spot for Celtic anyway. Like Liverpool, I don't know, it was Never Walk Alone, and Kenny Dalglish, of course, as well. Like, if you give me a choice, you know, like I've said it before, if you're a young kid, you know, I would have started my career at Cardiff, then played for Liverpool. I would have liked to spell at Celtic, and represented Wales, you know, that would have been, and the other clubs have just been incredible bonuses. You can never, you know, that's your dream when you're like 9, 10, 11 years of age. But to get the opportunity then to go to Celtic with Martin O'Neill, who I worked with briefly as a young kid. John Hartson was there, Chris Sutton was there, so I knew people who were there. It was just the opportunity I wanted. It was like, I want to be able to play in an old firm. I want that moment. And I remember watching Celtic play, it must have been Cumbrae or something in the Welsh Cup. No, sorry, not Welsh Cup. It was early stages of the European Cup, you know, where they just brought like an army down of supporters, you know, filled in.
To Cumbrae, it's mad, isn't it?
Well, they played at Ninian Park.
Right.
Because, you know, obviously Cumbrae can hold, you know, their state. And it was just like the way they treated like Larson, and he was a god, he was the king. It was like, it's a special place. And I felt that way straight away. As soon as I went there, you know, the amount of people who were there to greet you when I signed, you know, I had to like go outside and, you know, say thank you. They were just like, you just felt one of them. They really like embrace you, you know? And I started okay. Funny enough, my debut we lost against Rangers. So I was thrown straight into a derby. I haven't played a month of football. Yeah, and I didn't play well. Lost that game, but then went on a run, Scott. But I just, you know, you feel their willingness for you to do well.
Come on, Craig.
Yeah, no, it was. And it was like, you go away from home. So if we played at Livingston, we take over basically Livingston. They have one stand and they're the home team, but it's like full Celtic. No matter where you go, it's like, you know, I was watching Ninja Warrior in Australia last night. I don't know why, but in the audience, there's a Celtic top. Yeah. Of course. You know what I mean? It's just like, they're everywhere. they're everywhere, and it's such a renowned. Like even when we went to America,
in America, any Irishman will be wearing a Celtic song.
It's like they're huge, and I felt that. Honestly, it was like, but once you represent them, you're part of them. They see you as like, you're with them, And I know the politics that go on, obviously, with Rangers. I know the uneasiness and, obviously years and years of uncertainty and the rivalry as well. It's not just about football. I'm fully aware of that. But it's special. And I class Rangers exactly the same. If you play for them, it's special. Those old firm clubs are... you got to go and do it. I know Leds has been there, and I know one or two other Welsh boys have been there. But I had such a relationship with them for such a short period that it was like strong. It was strong. They got me for about 15 odd games, and they loved those 15 games as much as I did. We had a good, in the derby game, it was like, wow. Wow, the score there at Ibrox was, and I knew I was going to score.
I think that's probably why you looked up so well by them as well, is because you didn't have a chance to have a bad patch or a bad relationship. You had that short time, and you've done so much in that short time. I think you scored 7 goals or
7 in the league,
maybe 9. Yeah, nine goals
we won the cup.
Just over 10 games. It's not bad.
No, and I got injured in that period as well. I done my hamstring as well against it's at Ibrox. But it was just, and I remember, we played at Ibrox, right? And they have one end. Celtic, they give them, obviously, they have to have one end. So it's all Celtic end. And I remember this big, massive banner saying, "Welcome to the Craig Bellamy Show." And I was like, looked at it, and I was like, they're right.
You've never had that before, have you?
Not like that. No. Not like that. Like Newcastle was big. Like Newcastle give me a lot of love. A lot of love.
See the banner though, and
that banner was just like and it was, and I was only on that pitch for 55 minutes. It was a show. Yeah. It was that, and I mean that. It's not like, and I'm good at playing stuff down as well. Don't worry about that. But that.
You've done. What did you say last time? You've done more up there in the couple of months.
More up there in 6 months
than Joe Ledley ever did.
Yeah, then he done it in 6 years or something like that. Yeah. But
class.
It was just immense. Honestly, it was I still have a rapport with him now.
Yeah.
I'm still and you know what I can be like as well. I'm like some people, I'm socially quite awkward at times. It's not by purpose. It really isn't. I just don't know. Like someone said to me the other day, "You Craig Bellamy, yeah?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And we didn't know what to say then. Yeah. You know what I mean? He didn't know what to say. I don't know. What am I supposed to say now? And he must have walked away for,
prick.
Yeah. But I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I know. Because you don't know how they're going to take it over, though.
Yeah, I got a 2-year-old jumping around in balls and not those bouncy balls and stuff. I'm like, and I thought maybe I should have given time. I don't know what to have done at that time. It was it wasn't quite the time. I got to watch this little girl a minute because she's flying everywhere. But I don't know, mate. It was a period that I didn't want to end. I really didn't want it to end. And if I would have signed, they would have loved me. And, we would have been together for a long, long time. Yeah. But it didn't happen due to circumstances of the money that was going on at Celtic at the time, wages or fees. And look, I weren't that worried about wages. It was never, like I said to you about Newcastle, it was football for me. It was so important. And they tried everything for me to stay there, but it just wasn't possible because Newcastle were never going to loan me again, and they could only do it on a loan fee. So it just wasn't going to be. But I'd done it. I'd done that derby, I'd done the old firm. And even when I watch it on telly now, I'm like, I was there.
Yeah,
I got to experience. I got to experience it, and in a good team as well, against a good team as well. And we lost on the last day. We lost the league. It's still numbing now. It's still you see that helicopter coming round. We're 1 minute away from winning the league, and then we concede. Yeah. And then it just went silent. Then the helicopter went. Fans didn't know what to do. It was just over. The league's over that quick. In a game we should never have drew. I missed chances. We won 1-0 up. And look, credit to Rangers, because for the last 4 or 5 games in a row, they had to win every game to even give them, they've lost one of them, they were gone. League was over, it was ours. And they kept going. We drew in that time as well. They kept going and they won the league. Then us losing it. I know it's easy to say, look, you lost against Motherwell last game of the season where, you were going to win that 9 times out of 10. But credit to Rangers. And I remember I spoke to Barry Ferguson after it, who was the Rangers captain. I rang him up and I congratulated him. I said, look, well done, No, funny enough, I couldn't get through. I left him a message that said, no, well deserved. You won that league, credit to you. So, and we went and won the cup then a week later. But it was good, mate. It was good.
Good times.
Yeah.
What about Celtic then now? Like, do you think they're going to take the title this season or?
Yeah. They got a manager, a real manager.
Yeah.
He's top. He's top level.
Yeah.
In the way they play, his connections, because he was obviously in Japan as well. The Japanese boys, with the play, look, they're a good team. The way they play, the way they break teams down, playing Champions League football as well is going to help. But Ange is he's the top coach. He's a top coach, and it's a club. I just love watching him play, and I love watching him coach. He's really. Honestly, he's top end. And the way, like I said, the way he got the players playing, but he done it early. I think the first 6 games, they won 3 under him, lost 3. It was just that lot, but and they clicked then. I don't think they lost again that season. And okay, they lost last week. They lost their but
St. Mirren.
Yeah, with the games coming up, look, you're going to lose the odd game every now and then, as much as you don't want to, and as good as they are, and they are. But as a team, when I haven't watched them pre-season, they give anyone a game.
Yeah,
they give anyone a game because he's that good, and the players they have. Yeah, it was such a good choice from him to choose the club from being in Asia, and then to come to Celtic was a great move for him. Really clever move, and the club being able to go and get him as well was like I know the people who made the move happen. Because he wasn't a surprise. Maybe a few people outside would have looked at it and said, well, who's this guy coming over, But in Man City circles, the City group, and even us at Anderlecht, we were fully aware of him, yeah. Vinny wanted him, but he wanted to be a manager himself. It was like he was talked about, and this guy's coming over soon and he's going to be one of the top.
The next one to watch, yeah.
Yeah, and he's done that. He is that.
Blackburn Rovers, obviously you're there at Burnley now, so like you said, you basically said earlier how much of a great club they were. Do you think they'll ever be a Premiership side like they once was?
No, not like that, because of, the money that was spent. He was the first real money guy to come in. And he was, Jack Walker. It was a Walker, am I right?
You can't quote me on the names, but go on.
I can't even believe that.
Should have been equipped with that.
Yeah, should have been. But he's, he had, I think he had his money from Steel and everything like that. And then that's when he brought Shearers
as well.
And he was a Blackburn fan. It was his club.
Yeah.
And even when I went there was still the effects from him. There was still, the training ground was incredible, facilities. He spent a lot on all that.
Fair play.
What I liked about him was, one, his family were running at the time, was... they could never get themselves in debt. They could only have what they spent. And what they brought in, it was such a well-run football club. They could never get into debt because they weren't allowed to spend what they didn't have.
Yeah.
It was run on a trust fund. So they could dip into, that trust fund was to manage. And anything they made from selling players, they'd go back into the club. That was seen as their money to be able to go and spend. So it was just organised and well-run. And good people there as well. John Williams, chairman, was really, really good. And yeah, it was the same again, like with Coventry. I remember my agent come and see me and he was like, look, Blackburn want to sign you. And I was like, well, I don't want to go Blackburn. I was sort of, my heart set on Everton at the time. I went and met David Moyes in a Celtic manner. Brilliant. He was brilliant, honestly. And then I went and met him again a month later in Preston with a completely different conversation. It was like he had a list of rules, and Bill Kenwright then said, "Look, when's his medical?" And I was like, "Nah, this doesn't seem right."
Weird.
Yeah, and funny enough, he rang me about 2 months after it when I signed for Blackburn, and he said, "I'm sorry." He said, "Someone got in my head."
Someone saying about like,
be careful of this.
Craig Bellamy, you need to.
Yeah, and he did apologise for that, and I like David quite a lot.
Fair play for that.
No, he did. Yeah,
call.
He just said someone just at the wrong time. But at that stage, my career was like at a crossroads. Like my name was like not great, honestly. You know, it was like loads of clubs. Like Newcastle were ringing a lot of clubs saying, "Don't touch him." Yeah, you know, like where we had to speak to Newcastle. It was like, you can't want to sell him and then anyone who comes in for him, warning them off. Like, what you want?
When you try and sell something, even if it's fucking broke, you try your best to like, look at this.
Yeah, look at
great.
Yeah.
The pristine condition.
Yeah. Well, then, like I said, like Blackburn. So I went and spoke to Mark Hughes because I promised I would, and because I knew him with the Welsh squad, and you know I played with him as well. And him and Mark Bowen spoke so well. They spoke so well. It was like, look, everyone thinks you're this type of person. Everyone thinks you're this type of player. We know you're not. We know you. I've had you since you were a kid. And Mark Bowen, I was younger, like I was 15, 16, because he was at Norwich. He goes, I know exactly who you are. I know the type of person. You've got a heart of gold. You love football. We want to show that. This is what we want to show. We're going to build a team right round you. And we're going to show everyone how good a player you are and what type of person you are. The players here that love you, you'll love them. You know us as staff. We love you.
You were sold.
And it was just about, and he goes, do you know how much we're able to buy you for? 3.5 million. 3.5 million they're willing to let you go for. He goes, we'll put a cap in, 6 million. So if you do well, any club can go and buy you then. And 6 million, if you do well, you have every club after you at the end of the season. Just give us 1 year. So they were like backing it as well and talking so much sense with everything. And it was like, that's what Newcastle think of you. They're willing to let you go for 3.5 million. A player 2-3 years ago just won PFA Young Player of the Year. He goes, that's impossible. That's impossible. He goes, it's just crazy. We shouldn't be able to get you, but we are. We're in this position. Now let's go on the Craig Bellamy bandwagon. Let's go and show the whole Premier League how good you are. And I was like, bastards.
You got me.
Yeah.
Groomed.
Let's go. No, it was. It was just like, they knew exactly what to say. They knew what would like. And he goes, see when Newcastle finish next year? I bet you we finish ahead of them. With you and our team. And I was like, yeah, I think we will.
I'm coming.
That's it, yeah.
Prove my point.
And I did. I went there, got injured non-stop for the first few months, honestly. But the games I did play quite well during those times. And then after Christmas, just went on a run. We finished like 5th in the league. You know, only about 3-4 points off Champions League. Yeah. It was just a brilliant year, honestly. It was like, and the club, the people in the club, couldn't do any more for me. It was all designed, and I loved coming in every morning. I didn't have to do any interviews. There was not many people were really that interested in Blackburn. Do you understand what I mean? It wasn't like, I weren't in a spotlight. The club weren't in a spotlight. It was all about football, great training ground, a manager who really believed in you, players who really believed in you. Like, the players around there all wanted you to do well, all wanted you to, and I just felt that support network as well. And it was only a year, but it was a good year. I won Player of the Year there. Spurs came in for me at the end with Martin Yall, with Daniel Levy as well.
Martin Yall.
Yeah, I spoke to him. And then Liverpool came through. Yeah, that was... And I remember I was on holiday. Go on, we'll finish off at Blackburn anyway. But it was... I remember speaking to Mark Hughes and said, look, I'm going to go Liverpool. And he was like, I think you're making a mistake.
He said that?
Yeah, he said... And I was like surprised. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, it's Liverpool. He goes, look, this manager, he meant Benitez at the time, and he said, the way they play doesn't suit you. It doesn't play the way you want to play, and that'll get the best out of you. He goes, maybe Spurs I can understand, but he said, I feel you're better off with us. And I remember like, yeah, you're just saying it because it's
Come on, man.
Yeah. But I did say, look, it's Liverpool. This is why I play football. Yeah, this is... And he weren't happy, honestly. It wasn't like a conversation that, and I spoke to John Williams then, said, look, thank you for everything. And he was like, yeah, thanks, no problem. Bye.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that quick. It was
That's
like,
mad.
It was like, yeah, okay. Okay. But it would just, I can understand their disappointment as well. They built a team around me, but they knew, like we said at the start, it was only a year. If I didn't do well, then I'd have to do, we'll go again. Yeah. But that was why I came. You got me there for a year and you paid $3.5 million for me. You got, from just avoiding relegation a year before to finishing fifth. Now you're in Europa League. You're in Europe.
Yeah, fair play.
So it was a great year for them and for me. But we worked it out after it. But it was just that initial moment was disappointment. I felt their disappointment from the manager and from John as well. But it was Liverpool. I had to do it. I was a Liverpool supporter, so.
Well, so tell me about Benitez. What type of person was he?
Do you know, Rafa was different. He was, I remember speaking to him, negotiating. I weren't, because I never really got involved in negotiating. I was always going to sign for Liverpool. I was going to work itself out, yeah. So then But I remember he came in and he was like, oh, do you want to play for Liverpool? So why is your agent asking for this? And I said, look, I leave them to them. That's their job, I did forget to ask, well, what are you earning then? Do you do this for free? Or do you just because it's Liverpool? Or are you earning 4 odd million a year? Yeah, it was like, that worried me straight away. Mm. Then he had a picture of like me shouting. I'm like, oh God, what? You'd have 2,000 of them. And he was like, why is this then? Why? I don't want to see this. And I remember looking at it I'm like, and do you know what, that instant, I remember it now, it was against Sunderland. And I had a bad back for a couple of weeks. And I had the ball, we were winning 1-0 and I had the ball and the keeper pushed me from behind in my back and the ball just went in because I was killing time. And I remember thinking I could turn round at him. And I'm sure it would have been any of it. You would have caught other instances way other games. Yeah. But I remember that moment as well. But I just...
Did you tell him that as well?
I mentioned it. I'm sure I did, yeah.
I had a bad back rap.
But I remember thinking, no, don't say anything. It was because you'll find other ones where it was... But I just, and then the first few weeks, it was a different way of doing things. It's probably the first real foreign manager I had. It was a lot different. It was like sort of, you played the way he wanted you to play, which I understand. But where you have a bit of freedom as forwards, it was not. Yeah. You run here. No, you run here. But what if that defender goes here? Then surely I can go there. No. You just go there. And that was it.
Fucking hell.
And I just, it just, you need that bit of freedom.
Mark Hughes was right.
Yeah, he was. He was. And I remember I went and seen Mark Hughes about 6 weeks later. And I said, yeah, I know what you mean. He goes, look, it's done now.
Yeah.
He goes, go there and give her everything you got. So we were okay, you know what I mean? I went into Blackburn and seen him. But we just, it was a different, but I look back now as well, and I picked up a lot from Rafa about the pockets, about the discipline, defensive work, about the line, about, high lines, deep lines, playing through the middle thirds. And there was a lot I picked up off Rafa as well, because he was obviously Spanish. But I did feel there wasn't a freedom to, there was never off you go. Let's go and hurt these today. It was always like a tactical element. And sometimes it was, but a lot of it, which is fine. I'm okay. Honestly, I'm okay. But it was negative. Mm. It was like, well, let them have the ball. But it's like we played Blackburn away and 2 guys. It was like, it's 2 guy. We can't let him have the ball. It don't matter. Like, he'll kill us. Mm. He's that good. Don't matter how old he is. He's that good. And he was like, no. And he did. They beat us 1-0. They beat us 1-0 and he killed us. And it was just little moments like that. And I thought, we're Liverpool. It's not, we can't allow anyone to have the, we've got to have the ball. And that's why we've got Steven Gerrard in the team, like one of Europe's best players. We go and take the game to them. But it was like counter-attacking football. And like I said, it was a lot of good stuff from it. But I felt as a forward, I remember when Robbie Keane went to sign there. And I spoke to Robbie. I was like, you sure? I said, I'm not. Like, I can only tell you from my experience. I don't think he's for you, Rob. Yeah. And he was like, he was the same as me. And we always feel us as football, it'd change for us. It'd be different when we're in.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like it was for it's different. But it doesn't. And then Robbie, he went about 5-6 months. No, he was there only there about 5 months. And he wasn't him. That wasn't Robbie Keane. It wasn't Robbie Keane. He was like an immense, incredible footballer. And that wasn't Robbie Keane we all knew.
I got to mention it. I know we spoke about it last time, about the golf club incident, yeah?
Yeah.
But John Arne recently done a podcast the other way. Did you?
I didn't see it, no. I haven't seen it, no.
Well, he's trying to come with a different story, basically.
I think he would.
I think he watched ours and just thought, I got to go and do a podcast.
Yeah, look, I think anyone would know. We could ask Steve Finnan, because Steve Finnan was there.
Yeah.
I do not lie. Trust me, I don't lie. And I'm more embarrassed about telling this truth. This is not a good moment for me, and I feel like this is not something I want to out there. I understand you got to own it. I understand, like, it did happen, but it's nowhere near a proud moment for me. Do not worry about that. And I haven't heard his version, and I'd like, if he wants to believe that and it gives me less, or I don't know, then he can have that. I'm completely, because I remember he'd done an interview. We played against Fulham. And they asked, obviously, you're coming up against, and he was like, no, we get on really, really well. He's a good trainer, he was a good person, and so that opinion's changed. It's changed since then. Funny. But I don't know. Listen, I have no problem with John Arne, honestly. It was me. Like I said, I will own it. And it's not a moment I certainly like to live with, but at the end of the day, I have to, like I said then, I have to own it. And, and there's no, I don't say it bragging wise, or if I wish it didn't happen, honestly, trust me, I would love it to have not have happened. But it did, and you just get on with it. We ended up beating Barcelona off the back of that as well. Yes. So
look at the positives.
Look at the positives. Look, there's always a positive. Even though that's difficult to find.
Just staying on Liverpool quickly before we move on to the last couple of clubs. You won a League Cup under Dalglish. That must have been amazing, being under Kenny Dalglish, one of your heroes.
Yeah.
Against Cardiff City as well. And there's an iconic photo, right, where a goal goes in from Cardiff and you're in the background, but with a massive grin on your face. It's it's mad. Because obviously we've done a lot of work on Cardiff coming into the game. And they don't play. Listen, they're not going to get passes in, or you don't have to worry about any of this. They're not going to look to break lines. It's big, up to the target man, build round him, but set plays dangerous, long, any ball in that half that goes out of play in a dead ball situation, they have Gunnarsson who can throw the ball in from the halfway line onto your box. It was just, they're a hard work and well-organised run for each other. So it was always going to be a difficult game. I remember being on, and I knew they were hard working. And I remember there was like a long throw-in, corner, and like another long throw-in. If we would have broke, I would have gone 1-on-1. And I'm near waiting for the moment to please just clear. If we clear this, I'm in. I can go. But we couldn't get the ball. It was like every time we cleared it, it went out for a throw-in, it went out for a corner. They just missed as well. And I thought, that's their chance. That's their chance. And then it went out for another corner. And when they scored, there was a part of me of we couldn't do anything. There was nothing we could do because the ball was never in play. Yeah.
We spent the last 5 minutes, and I reckon the ball was in play. Must have been about 20 odd seconds. It was just long throw-ins, corners. And part of me, the smile was it was going to happen. I've seen too much of this team, and I've watched them obviously with Malky as well. And it was a part of me, so credit to them as well. To have the balls that they had, and the fighting spirit they had as well. And it was when it came to pens, I didn't want to take a pen, because I felt part of me is I didn't want to score for Liverpool to win it and then break Cardiff's hearts, or I didn't want to miss for Liverpool and be remembered for the person that Cardiff ended up winning a trophy due to a Cardiff boy playing for Liverpool, and I wanted to stay out of fate. Do you understand? And it's not like me either, and it still pisses me off. Now, I should have, but I was no, it was, I want to win it because I want to win a cup. But I'm telling you, honestly, it was if they would have won it, I would have been okay, you know. Yeah. Honestly, I would have been okay. And even when we won it, it didn't feel like winning. I was like, I went and spoke to Hudson. I went and spoke my time with Cardiff players. I was like, and a part of me was like, I'll be with you lot next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to come and play with you.
It was ironic as well, the way it did finish really with, obviously, Gerrard's cousin missing the penalty. So, yeah, he's remembered for that one.
I know, it was, like, it's pens.
Liverpool current situation, haven't been a good start this year. Do you think Darwin is
No, he'd be okay. He's a good player and everyone would have bought him. You know, he's been an outstanding player for a few years. When he was in Spain as well, and they paid good money for him, Benfica. He's mobile. He's got a lot. Mane is huge, but Mane was coming towards the end of his peak now. Salah's coming towards the end of his peak. Now, you know, we're not even talking about Henderson. We're not talking about Milner. You know, these players, what they've done over the last number of years is amazing, incredible. And what they've done last year was well ahead. I thought last year was going to be this year because the age and the profile of the team, it's gone old. Now, usually you regenerate that team and you bring in the money and, you know, you look what Ferguson was so incredible at over the years was when the player got to his peak and was coming the dip, then you get the highest value then and you move on and then you reinvest that money and build the team again. And you keep, and that's how you stay, you know, that's how you stay competitive and able to keep winning. I just felt over the last year or so, Liverpool missed that. They didn't cash in on the players that I felt were at the peak at value-wise as well, to regenerate that team. Now, Jurgen Klopp knows way more than I do, way more. So I trust him. But that was my way of looking at it was like, well, for Liverpool to be competitive now for the next 5-10 years, this team needs regenerating. Yeah. But, you know, last year, you know, like, you know, we were only a few months ago talking about like the quadruple.
Winning the quadruple,
you know, it's incredible. And this group of players will be remembered forever.
Yeah.
They're one of the greatest Liverpool teams I've ever seen. And I grew up in the 80s when I seen John Barnes was like one of the best players in the world for 2 years. So, you know, Ian Rush, Dalglish, Peter Beardsley, it was just immense. Alan Hansen, like I still to this day, I'm not sure I've seen many better. But if I look, that team now was at their peak. I thought last year they overachieved. And I thought now we're just on that curve. I still believe they get Champions League. But there needs to be that, you know, he's got one or two players in, you know, who've just been immense. And I trust his recruitment, I really do. There's nothing to prove, you know, that he's always, to me, looks like he's always got that right. And even with the age profile, he's always got it right. But like I said, just one or two players maybe have gone past that stage. But maybe you keep them, I don't know. I look at it and say, do you know when the teams won a World Cup? And then 4 years later, you're still trying to play with that team.
Yeah.
But 4 years is a long time.
It is.
But you don't want to get rid of them because you remember what they've done. How do you get rid of a World Cup winning player? Yes. How do you say your time's up and I'm not going to give you the opportunity of defending it? So that's why those teams you see have won it really struggle to get out of the group stages. Their time's ended. But do you have the balls? And I'm not sure I would, to say, look, it's done now.
It's done.
That period's done, thank you. And now we're going younger. And
I would have kept Manny for another season, though. I would have.
But I understand the sell as well. I really do. It's the money.
Yeah.
Because would his value be as high next year?
No, obviously, sure. They wouldn't have had the 35. You'd have went for free. But if you're talking about still winning the league, like I would...
Yeah. Mate, it's such a different
manager perspective, a fucking armchair fan perspective are two different ones. But
yeah. Well, if you look at Salah now, would you have got way more for Salah now this summer than what you would get next year?
Yeah.
But do you cash in on that?
That's what I'm saying.
Nor do I. Do you know what I mean? Because he's so good and he's offered so much. So it's like I said, it's a difficult one. And we talk like as fans, you know what I mean? That's, you know, like if I was talking not a fan, I would have probably said, yeah. But as a fan, I don't want to see him play for anyone else. I don't want to see, like, I don't want to see Manny at Bayern Munich, you know?
Yeah.
But I sort of understand it as well. And I understand it for him. He's coming towards the last few years of his career. Maybe he wants to see something different, and you have to respect that. But he'll always be remembered for what he done. Like all these players will. Never forget this team. Never forget this team. And there's still legs in them now. But I just, there won't be a quadruple. There won't be, it won't be a league title.
What's going on, people? If you like your clothing, especially vintage, then you need to get down to Knight's Vintage in Cardiff Market. You can't miss it. It's across the famous Welsh Gate shop. It's right by there. There's no excuses, yeah? We've got a wide range of everything, from your Stone Island jackets to your CPs and feelers. We also trade, buy and sell. So come down here if you want to deal with some of your old clothing. They're more than happy to take it in. We've got everything. T-shirts, jumpers, polos. The trainers are off the scale. We've got the Air Force Ones, the Air Maxes, the Dunks, even the Sambas. Even the Sambas for the city boys, yeah? Get down to Knight's Vintage. Stay central. Do you need a work uniform? Want to start a clothing brand? Or maybe you have a football kit that needs a logo printed? Well, if I was you, I'd get in touch with the Re-Inspire Printing Company down Treforest Industrial Estate for the finest printing and embroidery in Wales. I use them for my custom-made mankini, but you could use them for t-shirts, hats, hoodies, and many, many other things. Manchester City, you came in at an incredible time. You was there when the money came in. So what was that transition like to witness?
It was, I remember I was at West Ham and they tried to buy me then before the money with Sinawatra. But I was injured for a year at West Ham, and I remember West Ham asked me, like, would I be interested in them? And I was like, no, I've been injured for a year. I think it's right I stay here and play. And they were happy with that. I was happy with that, no problem. And then the last window, like the last day of the window, remember they got taken over and they were trying to sign everyone. They ended up with Robinho, but it was like, wow, this is different. We haven't seen it. We've seen Abramovich, don't get me wrong, but this was going to be aggressive. And then around about Christmas Eve, Tottenham tried to buy me with Harry Redknapp, and then Man City were on the phone straight away saying, no, well, we want you as well. And anyway, I ended up going to Man City. When I was there, there was like Khaldoon, who was like the main guy at Man City. Yeah. Do you know, this guy would walk in, his suit was incredible, smelt incredible. Do you know when you ever see someone who looks like cash? He looks like money. Smells a bit, yeah, looks like it. Honest, but he was like so human and so approachable, so knowledgeable. He was just like, wow, this guy's different world. You know what I mean? It was like, and then the way they changed the training ground, his views he had on players, but how respectful he was to the manager, how respectful he was to, and it was, you just knew they're going to get it right. These people are not here for, we went to Abu Dhabi once and there was council members from Manchester there, they were like building. They weren't just the football club. They were building Manchester. They were investing in this was more than football. The football was going to be a part. But then when you see with the City group, the plans they had, it's not just that stadium, it's everything around. Business people coming in from nowhere and you just like, these are not just the real deal. They're not here for a football club. They're here to like take over wherever they want to go and do. But they do it their way. It's an investment. It's, I'm not sure. Maybe I could be speaking completely out of turn now. I don't know if oil's going to last or whatever, but they're buying the properties just in case, yeah. Assets. And they own like loads of assets, but they're calculated. And I hate, probably the wrong word. Calculated makes it look like or sound sneaky. Like there's or a malicious agenda. Part to it. No, they're just intelligent.
Would you say it's not recklessly spent? They are actually putting in money and they are caring. They care about it. What they've done for Manchester as a place is incredible. You go there now, it's unrecognisable. Okay. What they do for people there as well, they're really conscious, and even ex-players. They couldn't do enough. Honestly. Yes, you've had an experience quite recently, haven't you? Because Khaldoon, I always kept on the right side of. But he was just such a nice human being. It was impossible not to.
I met the owner once. I didn't really quite meet him, got to shake his hand. He flew over from China and played Barcelona in a friendly.
He's a bit hard to get hold of, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit out of our range as players, you know. But Khaldoon certainly wasn't. He was very approachable. He was very much on the scene as well. And I remember like he knew I liked UFC, and I think Abu Dhabi bought a share in UFC.
Fair play.
And he came in one day like with a box, and he said, "This is for you." So I looked. It was BJ Penn's signed autographs, like gloves from a fight. And I was like, you know, just that incredible, eh? And I was like, just blown away. That's the type of person he was, you know. And then even like about a month ago, I was speaking to one of his close friends, and he was like, yeah, he always asks about you. He's always like, how is he and all that, yeah. And I speak to Faz like quite like a guy who knows him really, really well. And Faz was like, we're going to Abu Dhabi, you know, for the Grand Prix. He goes, when you come? And I was like, I'm not that interested in the Grand Prix. I'm not like, I've never have been really. And then he was like, oh, you got to do it. And he goes, and then Khaldoon sent me a message like, yeah. Fair said, look, we'd love you to come with us. And I was like, yeah, I was like, you can't say no to Khaldoon. I like Grand Prix loads. Yeah. I was like, I've got to go. But just that class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, they don't need to. They've had miles better players than me since. But they see you as part of their journey.
You was part of that journey.
And they always say that, yeah.
Special time as well.
You were part of this.
Building blocks, foundation.
Yeah. And he says that with Vinny even now, like, you know, because Vinny was there before him. But he's like, you know, he's like him and Vinny are close. But the way he speaks with Vinny was, you know, Vinny's like, they have a real special relationship.
What's your most memorable moment at Manchester City?
Memorable, Man United, yeah. It really was, honestly. I know like loads of people, but I just, going into that season, it was like, we were buying loads of players like Adebayor, Tevez. It was just money, like we were buying. And I remember people thought like I was like, well, he's gone now. You know what I mean? Now, and I thought I've got to fight for my place, but I can only do it if I'm fit. And then I started the season. I was fit. I was able to challenge for my place. And if I weren't good enough, I weren't good enough. No problem. But I've got to give it a go. You know, I say, God, I wanted to. I was like, I've got to see how far I can put, or how hard I can push myself to get in this team. And so I got myself in a team, and I remember like I played quite well. We beat Arsenal. I scored. I set up like a good one. And I remember like it was some journalist was like, you know, sort of played me down a little bit. You know what I mean? And I was in my head. It was, and I remember that game was in my head. It was like, okay, now this game, then I'll show you. And I scored a goal. The first one, I scored just like it in training the day before against Shay Given. And so as soon as it hit my foot, I knew where it was going because it was exactly the same as the one I hit the day before. It was just, it was a good moment. It was like, because Man City were on the up then. Yeah. They were really on the up. We won the first 4 games of the season. It was like, you know, we could go a little bit toe-to-toe with these now. Yeah. Where before that wasn't the case. You know, Man United were by far superior. And they were that season as well. They were still ahead of us, don't get me wrong. But you knew the gap was closing. Yeah, well, I think it was probably the next season or the season after that they ended up winning the league, you know. I know it sounds stupid, but like you had this, I think you was wearing the winning kit like the season before. The same kit is what you was wearing then was the kit the Man City wore to win the title. It wasn't. Honestly, they won the cup the year later. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it was a cup one. I think they beat Stoke, was it? Well, they won the cup. I'm sure it was Stoke. Yeah, FA Cup. But then they won the league then. The FA Cup, yeah. And then they won the league. It was a year after that then. But it was, look, it was going to happen. Yeah. It was, honestly, like when we were talking about Newcastle then, you just knew with this club and, you know, with the people, especially with people like Khaldoon, it was going to happen. You know, they were building towards that. And they'd been building towards Pep for a number of years as well before Pep came in. And now they're just a machine. You know, even when you watch them play now, they're a privilege to watch. Predictions for the season with Man City? Win it. Really? Yeah, well, you know, they're good. They won it last year and they're going to bring Haaland in as well. He's a machine, isn't he? Oh my God, it's just, what? You know, it's just... Freak. It's, like, I seen it once. I'm not saying he is that. Do you know when you watch rugby? When I watch Jonah Lomu, right? I've never seen anyone like Jonah Lomu. Still to this day. It just looked like, there's the man, there's the boys. He's a different world. Now, I seen Ronaldo, the Brazilian. Now, he was, before his big injuries, he was like as close as I've seen to dominating like Jonah Lomu done in rugby. Football, yeah. Now, when you look at this guy, and he's still a little bit off Ronaldo, don't get me wrong. And I'm talking about Brazilian Ronaldo, I'm not talking the Portuguese Ronaldo, and Messi, they're worlds, they're different planets. But what I see with this guy is like that. He's unstoppable. The guy can run in behind. He's lightning quick. Look at the size of him. He lives for those moments. He's just, at his age, you just don't get, they come every once in a blue moon. That fits quite well because it's Man City. But it really is, honestly. They're not, you don't get these type of players. You don't get them. But he's there, and now hopefully we get to enjoy him now for a number of years because the Premier League's better for the players like him. I would love to see Mbappe one day because Mbappe is the real deal. Yeah. But this guy, Haaland, is, Mbappe now. They're going toe to toe.
Craig, we got to talk about this final club before you go.
Yeah.
Obviously with the stuff that's going on at the moment as well. But you signed for Cardiff City, your home club. And we explained a bit how you kind of went to him last time on part one. But what was it like going back to Cardiff?
The first one, when I went back, it was like, I sort of wanted to do it. There was problems with, not just with Man City at the time, it was, they didn't want me to go to a rival team, like Spurs again. They were there. They've always been
never
there.
Went to Spurs.
I know. Listen, they weren't from the will of trying, and I wanted to as well at times. So I understood that. So they were happy for me to go Celtic, Valencia.
Dance around there.
Yeah.
You were never going to go with Italy, was you?
No.
Didn't like it?
That time. No, I did as a kid growing up. I loved Italian football, but at the time then it was on the curve.
Yeah.
But then it was, I was in Cardiff and I was speaking to Gary Cook and he was like, well, where are you now? We'll come and see you. And I was like, well, I'm in Cardiff. And he was like, well, what have you thought about Cardiff? And would you go there? I was like, well, how's that possible? He goes, well, listen, don't worry about it. We can make anything possible. And he goes, let us speak to Cardiff. Are you willing? You happy to go there? And I said, yeah, of course. So it happened. I honestly just went bump there, moved, and he was like, look, so we got you to Cardiff for a year. Go and enjoy it. Go and be home, be with the family, So it was like, great. I spoke to Dave Jones, was brilliant. And I went in. It was crazy because it was just it was a move that really could never happen.
I remember the crowd.
Yeah, it was very generous Man City, and it was, and I weren't in great shape. My knee wasn't great. I was in America for about 3 weeks leading up to it. My knee blew up a little bit. And I didn't feel as sharp as but the first game, Doncaster, didn't particularly play too well, but had a big impact in the game. And it was just something about it was special, but I was telling you, I was one of the most nervous I've ever felt going into a game. Because, when you feel like you're not in the best condition? Yeah. When you're in good condition, you're okay.
And everyone's expecting.
Everyone, I'm like, I think you might be expecting more than what I can offer you at the moment, But, lucky enough, that game went quite well. But I didn't particularly play, I had good spells, 1 or 2 games, but didn't particularly play well up till Christmas. It was I found a lot hard. I was injured for about 6 weeks with my knee because it kept swelling, so we needed time off it. But the discipline with an attitude as well wasn't as, I felt like there were players who turned up for training when they wanted. I thought the discipline in the place wasn't great. Not what I've been structured and used to. And I found that a little bit frustrating, It was, and I remember one game we played Bristol City, and I've mentioned it before. We were, I'm not sure if we were drawing, but we weren't playing well. It was Bristol City away. I think it was New Year's Day. And I remember, we're about to go out, about to lead the team out. And then one of the players are like refusing to go out. So I was like, what's happening? He's like, he's not coming out. So find out someone's hid his phone because he was looking at the bets.
All right, okay.
Half time. So whatever bets he's had or whatever. And he's like, until someone gives my phone, I'm not going back out.
Oh my God.
Imagine that going into, we lost anyway second half.
What the
and I
fuck?
remember it was like 10 minutes to the game towards the end. And I was like, I'm done. I'm like, this is not what I want to do anymore. I can't have this. Like for me, I was like, my heart was just, it felt like it's just been ripped out. It was like everything I love about the game and feel about the game. This is not the game. You know, when you have to like half time, a player refusing to come out. I was like, and this is what we should be worried about the game. We just got beaten against Bristol City, you know, and it was just like, I just don't know. That was a shock to me, you know. It was just really. And anyway, towards the end, got myself fit, and then really come into a rich vein of form. Sorry, got to the playoffs. I done my hamstring in the playoff. Lost to Reading anyway. But the best team in the playoffs went up. Swansea, they were the best team.
Yeah.
And Norwich got promoted that year. They were better than us. We played them twice. They were better. And who was the other team?
Oh, wait, they're Derby, weren't they? No, they never went. She was going to offer them 30 grand, weren't you?
Yeah, if they beat them, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Who was the other
Watford?
one?
No. Reading? You said
no,
Reading.
Reading were in the playoffs with us. Forest were in the playoffs with us. Norwich went up. It was in QPR. QPR, yeah. And they were better. They were with Tarats and all that. They had a real, so they were, and that was that year. And then I had the second chance with Melky. Because he wanted me to sign, but they didn't have a team. They were lost loads of numbers, players when I was, so a big shift in players. Got a team together, but I watched them quite a lot. Like I said, we got to play him in the League Cup final, but I just loved what he had, the work ethic. Didn't have talent, didn't have talented players. You know, not like your Bothroyds and all them, but they had real work ethic. They had real training. Yeah, it was like and he had discipline.
It was a different.
Players couldn't park their car whenever they wanted. It was like that weren't allowed. Players couldn't turn up whenever they wanted. Players couldn't eat whenever they wanted. Players couldn't go on whenever they wanted. It was not allowed. He was like, Melky was disciplined. He would dig players out at half time. I loved his substitutions. It was like, well, you're off. You're off as well. Off you go. Get him, in you come, you know? And he would like dig players out, dig me out. Why haven't you tracked your man there? He's your man. And it was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Because I like, people have a perception. I love that.
You had an exception.
That's right. It's right. If I haven't done it, tell me. Because you're right. Because if you haven't told me, I'll be more disappointed then. You know what I mean? Don't let me off the hook either. I deserve to, you know, you were right. You were spot on. I didn't. So if the players seen him having a go at me, they knew like, oh, he's not off limits. None of us are. You know what I mean? And it was, which is right. And that's how we were always getting promoted. Honest truth. I remember I spoke to the players. We had a little bit of a wobble, lost against Peterborough away. And I said to Malky, look, I'll speak to the players today. Don't worry about it. And he was like, great. So I got him round and I said, listen, do not worry about, we're top of the league. See the group of players we have here, we're going to get promoted. Now, I know there's a little bit of panic creeped in. I know there's a lot of talk outside about, we're going to bottle it. And, you know, because of the last few years and the way the playoffs went. And
Blackpool and that one.
This is not this team. This is not, you're not, we have one or two like Wits and other who are part of it, but don't worry about that. They're fine. We'll drag these lot along. We ain't going anywhere apart from winning this league. Because you know why? We train too hard. We're all there for each other. There's a group. There ain't no one going to be harder working than us, and we're going to get what we deserve. So don't panic. We've got 2 games coming up. I think it was Blackburn. We have Forest. We're going to get 6 points here. Calm down. Trust what we do. Trust the work we do. It's going to be enough. And it was it. And we won it by like, you know, a number of games coming up. And it wasn't just me. It was just, it needed to be said. Yeah. Don't worry. Don't panic. We've got nothing to panic for. Don't worry about what people are saying. Yeah, but that was the group before. That was the group before them as well. You ain't that group. You know, you're a different group. You're a different group of players. And we have a different manager. And then to win the league as well was just the icing on the cake. Yeah. Getting promoted was, but, you know, I wouldn't say it was a great season for me, but it was the first team. It was like I played a small part in a real hard-working team. And we all did. We all had little bits, little moments during the season. That's why no one got like 20-odd goals. We all were like highest goal scorers. Yeah, because we all played a little role during that time. And it was all done by the manager. And I look at his periods as well. And I know it didn't end well. And it was, I do feel both parties didn't do well with that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been that way. It shouldn't have got where it got to. But it did. But all right, I understand his name's not allowed to be mentioned at the club, by anyone surrounding the football club. His name's sort of been like wiped out of history.
I think that's sad.
And that's so sad. It's so, because you know what he done in 2.5 years was incredible.
He's achieved more for us than any other have in.
He is the best manager that Cardiff City in my lifetime have ever had by a long way. Long way. You think in 2.5 years, League Cup final, playoffs with a squad he didn't even have. He didn't even have that team, and he got him to a playoffs. And then to go and win the league then. And outside the relegation zone when he went. Now, all right, I understand the circumstances. I understand there was some things that weren't right. But we got statues of people around places who've done less.
Exactly.
And we speak way about people who've done way less for this club than what this guy done. And he brought the club together. I'm telling you now, he brought the team together. He brought people from the outside. He had time for everyone. And it just doesn't sit well with me how it's gone. And now I always try and respect everyone's view. I really do. I'm always trying to be open-minded to everyone. But that, we don't talk about him enough. And
how can you not talk about those seasons and achievements without him in it, though? Do you know?
Because of how it went and how it's ended.
Yeah, and I know.
It's how it's ended, and it didn't end. And it just, like I said, it's just such a shame it got to that.
Yeah.
Where we were front page of papers, and it's not Cardiff City.
No.
You know what I mean? And it was just, it was a shame. And we all lost. We all lost. The fans lost. The club lost. Malky certainly did, but even the players, everyone, we lost we lost a big part of history there, and a real brilliant 2 years. From what I know of the person, a real good man who taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about me as well. He was top. He was really top. Next one.
Current situation.
I knew you were going to ask that. Look, whether or not you feel he should have had the job, Steve, or supporters feel, or even anyone involved, that he should have had that role in the first place, is always up for discussion. Is always, what I mean? People are like, this guy coming in, or that guy, or if he was promoted from there, he must be, Vincent's man, or he must be paid. I'm always aware of what gets said. But he was given a role, and he'd done a good role to, got away from a relegation zone because it wasn't looking good for that period. Now, I look at the season, I look at the summer, the overall, the change. So I think he brought in like 17 new players. So a lot of players the wage bill went down, which had to, because that isn't sustainable. But when you bring in 17 new players, it's going to take time. It is. Like we know we've brought in 15. It's going to take us time. We're still not where, we believe the performances are going to get better as well. I've watched Cardiff a lot this year because it's worked to where we play teams they've played already. So, you don't just watch one game, you watch other games because you want to see habits of that team. And I've ended up catching a lot of Cardiff's games, and I'm telling you, they're not far away. And I'm not saying it because it's like, I've looked at games like, they're not bad, these. Cardiff are all right. They've the way they break lines as well at times, the way they play, they haven't taken their chances. All right, they didn't play that well against Bristol City, and I'm only saying this because we just played Bristol, but they had some great chances, by the way. They opened Bristol City up at times, which was really good play. And if they would have took those chances, the game would have been different. So I look at the game against Preston because we had Preston. They were miles better than Preston. Should have won that. Should have won that comfortably. So those results could have been completely different. They could be on way different points to where they are now. But, it's still early days. It's still early days. Now, why would you allow someone then to make 17 change of playing style as well? And then after, was it? So those 10 games, it must be about 6 weeks of the season, then suddenly feel it's not for him or he's not for you anymore. I find, I was surprised. I was surprised. Now, if you look at Cardiff's history over the last 10 odd years, now you really shouldn't be, because there's been a lot of changes of managers. It's one a year near enough, which is not always great. It's not, it's not the stability you would want, but it does happen at a lot of clubs as well. Cardiff are not immune to that. But when I looked at it and I thought, well, they've changed the system, changed a lot of players. Now, what's the harm in giving him the time? Now, do you believe you're going to get promoted? Now, that's what, do Cardiff believe they're going to get promoted? I'm not sure. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. If I looked at the teams this season, I didn't see them in the promotion side. I thought there was going to be a year of stability building the team. And now, who's going to come in and build that? Or what type of profile are you looking for? Are you not happy with the possession? Are you not happy, you want more shots? I don't know. And that's that's the questions maybe on the outside that, you look at, because I look at a coach and I look at a manager. We play Cardiff next. Now, who's going to be in charge? We don't know. Maybe Mark Hudson. Maybe he'll still be there or someone else will be there. But if you look at it, I see some of the names, some good names out there. I'm shocked Tuchel's name's not being mentioned. But you understand, there's a lot of good people out there but would you really take the role? I don't know. It's like, if you look at the history of,
where's the problem lie, Craig?
I don't know, and that's the honest truth. I don't know enough about the club. And I mean that. People automatically believe I would. I don't.
Do you think the owners have a big part to play in it?
I'm sure they do, because it's their club. And, they've invested a lot of money in a football club. And I feel sometimes we're a little bit afraid of, don't say anything too much, just because he pulls it out and where would we be then? You know what I mean? Yeah. Or we're also grateful as well for putting that money in, because he has saved the club as well. So, but there's a part of it is, it's like, well, where do you want to be? How do you want this club to be run? It can't keep happening year after year that a manager and then a change of a massive group of players again, wages being wasted or money going out on transfers at the wrong age. When you're paying 5 million for a 29-year-old, 30-year-old, you're not going to get any value from that. So where's the investment in a young squad? Now, youth players, where are they? Or are they playing? Or where's your academy? What's that looking like? Now, I do know a bit about the academy, and I'd always say there's always good players here. This area has good footballers. Always has done. And it does now. But are they able to get them in the first team and they get the right education? Now, are you coaching them the way that your first team's going to be playing? But then can you coach them the way from a young age that a first team's been playing when you're changing the manager? Because he's going to have a different outlook and a different philosophy on what he wants to see. And I hate that word philosophy, but it's so unstable there. Where's stability here, and where are they going to get get into there? Then it's going to be changed. Now, if you're a new manager and you're coming in, now I want to play young players, but to play young players then comes inconsistency. But if the average lifespan of a manager at Cardiff's lasted about a year, I haven't got the time for inconsistency, so I ain't playing any young players. That's what a thought process would be like. I haven't got that time because I'd be out of a job. So I don't know. It's just one of those it's easy for me to have a voice, because I know the club and I'm from here. So, it's easy for me to keep an eye on it. Do you understand what I mean? But there's a part of me as well. I don't want to talk out of turn either. Yeah. I don't want to be, talking something like I feel I know when I don't know. And that's the honest truth. I don't know what Mehmet wants to do. I don't know what Vincent wants to do. I don't know what Ken Chu wants to do. I'm sure they have a plan, but at the moment from the outside, what I would be looking in, I'm not sure what I see at the moment. Do you understand? And I haven't been sure of what I've seen for a while with that. But maybe they do. Maybe they do. And maybe there's a card up their sleeve where they believe in the next year or two they're going to get promoted again. Maybe they do. And if they do, then good luck to them. But at this present moment, it just left me surprised.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
it
and
is.
I don't
It's
like
you said, it's to make sense of buying all these players and jogging him on.
Yeah.
And leaving another person to come in with these.
Well, he comes in with, look, there's managers out there who will take it. I'm telling you now. There'll be a queue for him. You get phone calls now straight away. It's a good club. Why wouldn't you want to take Cardiff? But it's the type of managers. You understand what I mean? Now, like your Scotty Parks, forget about. They're different people and they have a different way of looking at the game. Sean Dyche is forget about. You know what I mean? It's like he's...
Yeah, some of the names I've seen
some
in
of the
there.
names, no, you like Nathan Jones as well. And Luton, you can't even get players out of Luton. They're so well run. They got money. You know, they're like a real stable club. Don't worry about we even looked at signing a player. You couldn't get him. You don't even bother. You know, Luton don't sell, you know, unless they want to do business. So forget about, I would, you know, even though he's a Cardiff fan, he's at Luton. And now, and I'm sure he'll be staying there. But there's, you know, there are other people out there, who knows, you know what I mean? But it's, I hope they get it right. I hope because of course I want to get promoted. I say we want to get promoted. I don't like the word when you're with a football club. Yeah. We want to get promoted, but also want to see Cardiff do well. Honestly, I love seeing Cardiff do well.
Well, you know, we've had the messages flooding in off people. When's Craig going to take the job?
No, do you know, the more I've looked at it, and not just Cardiff, sorry, I mean, I'm not interested in being a manager. Honestly.
So if Vincent came in, would you go to Cardiff?
No. I've sort of, the way I look, I like the pitch. I like being out on a pitch every day. And being a manager sometimes doesn't give you that because you do have to do a board level. You do have to, and I see what Vinny's done really close. And he can multitask really, really well. He's not like most people, I know I've said before, but his patience and how he's able to manage different situations and being able to he always looks at everything like a puzzle, trying to put it all together. And I'm part of that puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm the pitch and then in possession, you know, all that part, that's my responsibility.
You know your role.
I know my role. And I like my role. And I like that role. And I feel I'm more used to him in that role. And when I see how good he is, I don't feel I could get to where he is.
You wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
So why would I, you know, people always say, you know, well, yeah, but you sure you want to be your own man. And I'm like, I am my own man. I've always been my own man. And even in this role, I'm my own man. You know, I argue all the time with stuff, you know, or no, I disagree with this. Or he'll argue with me. No, Bellas, I think you're wrong with this. But I like that as well. That's because it will improve me. And I feel like I improve every day. So if anyone, you know me, that, you know, that's all I search for is to improve every day. What can I do, you know, what can I do to get better? And I get that.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I was maybe with a manager, I was under him and I felt I could offer more and I felt I could do better than what he's doing, maybe then I would have looked at a different avenue and thought, but maybe I need to go on my own. Yeah. But because I'm with someone who's teaching me so much, and surrounded by other people as well where I'm just learning so much from, I'm like, no, this is what I need. This is what I want to be. This is what I want to be. And these are the people I want to be with. So as a manager, I don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't feel it.
Craig, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We got through all the clubs, I think.
Yeah, no, West Ham, we missed
West Ham.
Missed out on West Ham.
God.
Yeah.
Terrible.
But I go with West Ham. One of my happiest periods. Honestly,
loved it. You was homesick at that time though as well, weren't you?
No, I wasn't at West Ham. No, I was injured. No, I was injured, but I loved it there. I had Lee Bowyer, Mark Noble, Anton Ferdinand,
Kieran Dyer.
But what a group of people. Scott Parker, yeah, Scotty P. It was just hilarious. Every day, going into that training ground, I would leave in stitches, honestly. And even the older people, people would come in and get their dinners and, you know, who played for the clubs in
Did you adopt the West Ham
50s. It was amazing, honestly. It was like, And, they get a bad rep, the fans. They were brilliant. The most knowledgeable fans of all of them I ever played for. You couldn't kid them. Do you know? Honestly. Do you see people go around kicking people like, I've seen fans like a cheer, say, yeah, but he has a go. And he has a go at what? He gives the ball away every time. They wouldn't accept that. It's like, no, you got to be a good player as well. We expect you to have a go. We pay money for you to have a go. But what are you like on a ball? And then also, what are you like when we're not happy? Do you still have the balls to go and get the ball? And if you do, then they'll have you. They're with you then. And I loved that about them. They were like, they weren't kidded on. It was like they've watched too many great players down the years. They've been brought up on Bobby Moore and all that type of stuff.
Well, what do you think of West Ham going forward now? They've got the great stadium and stuff.
They've spent a bit of money. They've got a good manager. Yeah. They do all right. They'll be around about top 10, top 6. But it's just a special club. And do you know when so many players like James Collins and all, you don't leave. Once you go there, you don't come back.
Yeah.
You stay around there because it grips you. It's that club. It's like once you've played for them, you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. I get what this club is. It's just like the humor, even the humor of the fans.
Oh, I can imagine.
Honestly, it was like you see me smile as soon as I mention them. I'm like, I just had so many happy memories there. And even when I left, I didn't want to leave.
Scored some screamers as well.
No, I had a decent period towards the end, but I didn't want to leave. Honest truth, you ask anyone there, I had to leave because the financial circumstances with the Icelandic owners, where they needed the money. But I was like, if I stay here, I can stay here, happily stay here. This was like, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Just before we go as well, what's your predictions on the World Cup?
World Cup? It's a difficult one. It's because it's such a strange World Cup this year.
All right,
being in November.
Do you think we're going to get out of the group stages?
There's a chance.
Of course there's a chance.
No, it's so predictable. Yeah.
You think we will?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I think, I do. I won't go too much more on it just in case I get it completely wrong. It's a strange group. With America in it as well, Iran, with England. It's just, but as a team to win it, honestly, it's a tough one, this one. Like there's a part of me says France again. There's a part of me says that. Spain, I'm like, Enrique's doing something there. There'll be one or two surprise players playing in it as well. Yeah. But there's something about them as well. Argentina, after winning a Copa America as well. I like the manager, Scolari. No, it's not Scolari. Solari or...
Well, for Argentina?
Yeah, what's his name? He was a player.
Scolari was Brazil, wasn't he?
No, yeah, he was, Big Phil. Sorry, I mispronounced his name wrong. Yeah.
We'll put it on the screen.
Look, there's a few teams, but it's a different one.
Listen, it's been a pleasure. It's always a joy talking to you, Craig. I hope you enjoyed it.
I love it, mate. Honestly, I've done one with Tubes.
Yes.
But since the Tubes one, this is the first one I've done. So I've only done 3 in a year. Yeah. And that's interviews full stop. And 2 with you and 1 with Tubes.
No, really
and listen, mate,
that.
And I love what you do. I love your show. I try and watch as much as I can. And
that's big.
No, but like I said, I'm a big fan of what you've been able to do.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of you as well, mate. I like what you've been able to go and do with yourself as well. And how you approach stuff and even how you interview. I think you're a credit, mate. I think you're a credit.
Well, I'm not an expert on football, but I know my bits. I try my best. You
do well enough, mate. Yeah. You do well because us experts are crap as well. So don't worry about that.
They always get it wrong, don't they?
No, all the time.
I think a lot of them got it wrong with Haaland this season as well, didn't they? I think a lot of them writ him off, and like you said, he's just unbelievable.
Different world, mate.
But listen, thank you so much, Craig.
It's a pleasure, mate.
It's a pleasure as always. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Stay central.
The Central Club.